sports source in St. Louis that matters. WXOS HD1 East St. Louis, 101 ESPN. Live from the Car Shield studio, this is the opening drive on 101 ESPN.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis, where it's 7 o'clock. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Danny Mack, Bradford Bruns, Randy Carricker, Bradford in for Matthew Rocchio. Brooke is out for her nuptials. It'll take place on Saturday, and she'll be out for the next week and a half or so. So it's Dan and Randy and Bradford on this Friday Eve. Great to have you with us. Good morning, Daniel. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm sitting in a different seat. I'm sitting in Rook's seat because we couldn't get the middle seat going. It's kind of being on a plane, and I didn't want to be in the middle seat. So I moved over to the aisle, and I just feel so comfortable over here.
It is a comfortable spot to be, isn't it?
It is. I can actually see you. I can see Bradford. Very comfortable.
And you can look out the window, a beautiful 67-degree day in St. Louis. Not a cloud in the sky. It's beautiful. How's Bradford Bruns doing?
Doing fantastic, gentlemen. As if you couldn't tell, of course, we have NBA basketball this evening. Our town's Jason Tatum. Celtics going for title number 18 at long last. I'm excited.
And if you're joining us on the Air Alliance team studio cam, you can see that one Bradford Bruns is wearing the Boston Celtics Jason Tatum jersey this morning. Proud of you.
Yeah, unfortunately, couldn't quite remember the hat when you're fumbling around at 2:33 in the morning. Something has to go right.
Now, hold on. What time did you get up to produce this show?
You don't want to know.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Dan, I did get one request of Bradford Bruns this morning. You really have to sell the Soliga heating and cooling. Give it your all.
I've been told that I have to work on the falsetto. That's difficult for me, guys.
Okay.
It's difficult.
Okay.
Get high.
I think he does a hell of a job with that one.
I think Matthew is kind of like the master, so when you walk into the lion's den, it's pretty tough.
Some would contend that Marsh does one heck of a job, too.
Does a really good job, no doubt about it.
Time for first.
All right, let's start with this. We'll get to the Cardinals, but the breaking news early this morning, Woj reporting at ESPN that the Lakers are targeting Dan Hurley, the head coach at UConn, the back-to-back defending champion UConn Huskies, to be the Lakers' next head coach. According to Woj, they're offering a massive long-term offer to get Hurley from college, where they make a great point in the story at ESPN.com, especially at a basketball-only school, and they aren't basketball-only, but they might as well be, right, at UConn. It's really hard to get NIL money to build a basketball power.
And that, to me, is the sad state of college sports right now. And I'm going to throw Jim Harbaugh into that as well, and Danny Hurley, fresh off of national titles. They go to the pros within months of each other. Looks like Danny Hurley will do that. Kind of a sad commentary on the state of college athletics right now.
And it's amazing to think that, 4 years ago, we're at Chaffetz, and Dan Hurley's on the sidelines with Rhode Island.
It's incredible, and the jump that he's had, and he's going to make, over $100 million to do this. And I was thinking, these guys are retreads. How much of let's say it's a 5-year deal, how long would he last in a 5-year deal? Maybe 3 years, and LeBron has to be on board with this. You pay a guy $40 million to walk away. If you're Danny Hurley, how do you do that? How do you not do that?
You have to do it. And it'll be interesting to see how everything works. It is a young player's game now, and he's done a great job with young players. I'm intrigued by the move. I think it's, of all the names that I saw for the Lakers, the best move that they can make. And it's not done yet, but apparently they're heading down the road towards Dan Hurley leaving UConn to become the Lakers head coach.
If you're the Lakers, I think you have to do it. I would be very curious if that act gets thin with guys that have been around a long time. You have Davis, you have LeBron that have been there a long time. They've been pros. How much do they want to grind? How much are they going to be asked to grind? I think that's a legitimate question going into this. But Danny Hurley getting over $100 million potentially, again, going back to that, I just don't know how you turn that down. And if you're the Lakers, you go out and you make a splash. At this point, you've got LeBron for maybe 2 more years. Randy, you got to go make a splash. You got to get the best guy out there, and it looks like he would be it.
Agreed. Bradford, I'm going to put you on the spot here as a Celtics guy. When Brad Stevens left Butler to go to the Celtics, what was that roster like? Was that the young Tatum roster. He got Tatum while he was the head coach, right? Stevens did?
He did, yes, as a matter of fact. And he had to mold and certainly finesse a number of different things. And I'm not sure that anyone, quite frankly, even the biggest basketball zealot there on the East Coast, could have predicted that Stevens, despite all of that widespread success at Butler, would go into Boston and really be able to pay dividends on the sidelines in the way that he did. But a little bit of a different scenario there. I will say that on this front, I'm with you, Dan, insofar as I think immediacy here with respect to Dan Hurley and the Lakers, that is precisely the injection of energy and the sort of enthusiasm there that this organization, this team needs. I wouldn't have expected it coming from this front office, but at the same time, when you project down the line, who really cares at that juncture anyway? Because you're going to be eventually, at some point, moving the page beyond LeBron, maybe even beyond AD, and then allow Hurley to really put his imprint on the organization. Right now, utilize that short, small window that you have. See what you can get for another year or two.
You think this tells LeBron, like, hey, we're in charge. We want you. We like you. We're going to give you input, but we're in charge.
Apparently, LeBron's on board with this. He's a Hurley fan, and he loves the idea of Hurley developing Bronny.
Interesting. Here's a guy, though. Randy, he averaged, 4.5 points at USC?
I know.
Yes. I mean, how much are you going to really develop him? Is he going to become a 25-point scorer in the NBA? Absolutely not.
No. But what it does is, for the Lakers, the 15th guy on the roster doesn't make any difference, right? So it preserves LeBron for you for 3 years.
Yeah, essentially that's what you're doing, for sure.
There will not be a two-way contract, though, per Rich Paul.
Right.
No, I think it's funny that in the mid to late 50s, it seems to be this foregone conclusion that L.A. will inevitably select Bronny James no matter what. And projecting forward, guys, nobody right now is operating under the assumption that this is going to be somebody who comes into the league who at any point in the league is averaging 20 plus. No. But he does have physical measurables. Huge surprise there. Could evolve into a rotational 3-and-D type guy. If you can have somebody like that and develop him slowly, could be
valuable guys. By the way, that first year Brad Stevens was in Boston. Jeff Green, Avery Bradley, Jordan Crawford, Jared Sullinger, Rajon Rondo was the starting five. So Hurley's going to get off to a better start simply because he's got LeBron and
better players. Yeah, makes sense.
All right, Cardinals wrapped up their series in Houston yesterday. Longest trip of the year. Cardinals win 4-2. Lost the first two in Philly. Won the third. Lost the first two in Houston. Won the third. And first of all, an intriguing pitching decision that worked out for Ali Marmol in pulling Miles Mikolas. He'd gone 6 innings. He allowed 2 runs. He'd only thrown 62 pitches, and Ali decides to pull Miles Mikolas.
I think this shows how badly he wanted to get one win out of the series, knowing that Colorado is coming up. And not that you overlook the Rockies. You never overlook a Major League team. So Rockies team, though, has given up 5.5 runs per game, most in Major League Baseball. It just told me, Randy, that he was going with the big three and saying, I'm rolling the dice with my best chance. And I was shocked. I'll be honest. I was shocked that he made this move, only at 62 pitches. But what it told me is that he is going for the jugular here and saying, I need to get at least one win out of this series. And that's the way I took it.
Especially after the night before, because you only got 3 innings out of Palante, right?
Exactly.
And you're thinking, okay, bullpen's used up. Romero had thrown 30-plus pitches 2 nights before, and he comes in to throw the 7th. And by the way, only threw 7 pitches. And then Kittredge the 8th, and Helsley gets to save his 20th in the 9th.
Were you shocked?
I was stunned.
Yeah, I was too.
I was stunned. But then you look at who was coming up, the 2 guys that had hit the back-to-back home runs off of Mikolas. It makes sense. And I threw this out to you, and I don't think it'll happen, but it's an old-school thought process. You pull Mikolas after 62. You're going against Colorado, and you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday off, and you've got Palante. What about starting Miles Mikolas on 3 days rest?
I think it's an interesting point. I don't think that would happen. I think you got to roll the dice with Palante. It's an interesting point. It's something to throw out there. Do I think it's kind of crazy? I do. I do think it's a little crazy, but do I love talking about this stuff? I love it, yeah.
So back in our day, well, let's get to Ali first, and I got a couple of back in our days, but let's get to Ali first on pulling Mikolas with 62 pitches.
We got 3 guys that are really good on the back end. He's going right through the lane. At that point, it's not pitch count; it's more familiarity with the hitters that got him, and the guys that were coming up had 2 homers against him. That's JoJo's lane there with 2 lefties coming up. They don't have a righty off the bench today unless they wanted to get Bregman going again. So those guys went in order. So to be able to do what he did today, he mixed everything, got ahead of guys, a lot of soft contact, gave us 6, which is what we needed with our pen being where it's at. That was JoJo's lane. Kitchers did a nice job, and then closed it out with Hells.
So it was Diaz and Cabbage coming up that had hit the back-to-back home runs, and it all worked out, and the logic is very sound there.
Oh, man. Could you imagine, though, if we wake up today and that backfired?
Oh, and it easily could have because
Yes.
of Romero, right? Romero could have been gassed, but this is one of the back in my days. Tony La Russa always used to tell me, and you didn't second guess Tony as much as I did because I was on the radio doing it. But he'd always say, never forget, I know more about this team than you do.
Right. And he was right. He was right.
And Ollie knows more about his team than I do.
I thought, man, at that time, especially with Romero, as you talked about 2 nights ago, having thrown 30 pitches, I thought he'd be off limits completely yesterday, that you just wouldn't even go to him. I want to give some credit here to Miles Michaelis because it's flying under the radar here after a rough start to his season, but he's got 5 quality starts in his last 7. Now, in those 7, he had really a bad one. He had another that went 5 innings, but he's given them a chance to really win 7 of the last 8 that he started. The Cardinals rank 18th in quality starts, 6 innings, 3 or fewer, and you know what? You give Miles some credit here with 5 quality starts in his last 7. So kind of flown under the radar, but it did work last night.
He is the quintessential 2024 fifth starter. He's perfect.
I think
for
he's
that
number
job.
5 too. He's a number 5,
and he's perfect for that job. He gives you exactly what a number 5 starter should give you. And by the way, in this day and age, especially with this team, I believe they still have, it's either the second or the third highest paid rotation in baseball. He slots right in there, too, as a guy who is making the amount of money that a number 5 should get. And he gave you, we are going 62 pitches yesterday. Like Ollie said, not pitch count as much as the guys that were coming up. But what do you expect out of your fifth starter these days?
5 innings.
Yep, he gave you 6.
Give me 5 innings, and I'm okay with it.
Yep, me too.
And if, by the way, if I'm a 3 and I get 6 innings, talking about back in my day, if I get 6 innings out of a 3 now, I'm happy with that too.
Yeah. Okay, so we could make a segment out of this, but I want to just get your take. This was back in 1993. Tony La Russa and Dave Duncan were in Oakland, and they told 9 of the 13 pitchers on the staff that they were going to pitch in 3-man platoons. They were going to have a 3-man rotation. You remember this?
Yeah.
It was Van Poppel, Ron Darling, and Kelly Downs were going to be the starters, and then Mike Moeller, Bobby Witt Jr.'s dad, and John Briscoe would be the second, and then they would have a third platoon. They were basically going to have a 3-man rotation, but they were only going to go a max of 3 innings.
So, I by the way, what you brought in to the conversation, do I think it's crazy? Like I said, I do in this day and age. However, do I love it? Absolutely. I think it's something that I would look at right now. They're going to stick with their rotation of Gray, Lynn, Gibson, and then it's TBD. So you don't know which direction they're going to go in. By the way, Tink Hence was taken out after 2 innings last night, so something to consider with the minor league situation. Not a good situation, you would assume, after 2 innings. But to your original point, Randy, such a different day and age of baseball. But, man, 62 pitches, not very much for a starter. Why not think about it? Why not?
Yeah, it's outside the box, but the guy did only throw 62 pitches, so he should be able to theoretically come back, unless he's so routine-oriented, and I don't know if Miles is. A lot of guys are so routine-oriented, there's no way they could come back on 3 days rest, like Chris Carpenter did for Game 7 of the 2011 World Series. But if he's not so routine-oriented, think about it.
Yeah. It's creatures of habit nowadays, and the money is so much involved in decision-making, whether it's from the manager or the player, or, let's face it, the agent coming down on an organization. But it is a fun thought. I hadn't thought about that, and it's something to consider.
Yep. Elsewhere in the NL Central, the Phillies over the Brewers, 2-0, so that's good news. Reds over the Rockies, 12-7. The Rockies lose every game. The Cubs came back and beat the White Sox. That was a good game. 7-6 was the final. And the Pirates beat the Dodgers by a score of... The Pirates Pirates, I'll say again, beat the Dodgers by a score of 10-6. Remember, the Pirates swept them last year, and the Dodgers have kind of been scuffling here lately.
They have, and I want to go back to the White Sox. I think that was either their 13th or 14th loss in a row. They're on pace, Randy, for 57 wins.
Yeah,
57 wins.
And apparently what little they have, they're getting ready to sell off.
Yeah, that's one of those 5 teams that we talked about yesterday that could have some value with some of the players that they have. Like a Tommy Pham comes to mind for me, without question. But they're going to have some other guys maybe out of their bullpen that some teams would like. And I think as we talk about the Cardinals moving forward, 5th starter and some bullpen depth is something that St. Louis needs.
The NBA Finals tip off tonight here on 101 ESPN, pregame at 6:30, Celts and Mavericks. And one other quick baseball thing for you. You mentioned Tommy Pham. And I found this amazing. Last night, Buck Showalter was on MLB Tonight. We're going to talk to Greg Amsinger at the bottom of the hour. But Buck Showalter said last year, when Tommy Pham got traded, he walked into Showalter's office and said, "Hey, I got traded. I just want you to know I had a great time here." Buck Showalter had no idea. The manager of the team had no idea that one of his players was getting traded.
How does that happen?
I don't know.
I mean, if you're a front office, and I understand that they're pulling the strings, but at least I get the input from my manager. If I'm getting a pitcher, a pitching coach.
Yeah. Or at least tell them.
Yes,
tell them
but that's the other thing.
the guy.
We're going to trade this guy, by the way, so you can have a little input, but we've already made the decision, and he's going to be traded.
Unbelievable.
That is.
So Buck is great on TV. Worst offseason move before 2024 in all of Major League Baseball was the Mets firing Buck Showalter.
What did he say so he tells that story? Did he give any, finishing up the story like he was just shocked that he wasn't told?
No, it was just that's the way baseball is now.
Wow.
There was a lot of back in my day with Harold Reynolds and he last night. And we'll talk to Greg about it. But yeah, it was so matter of fact, but a really interesting story. Dan, Bradford, Randy, it's the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Coming up, get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646.
This could be solo.
399 Yo-ho! Not completely solo. Sick of it.
Wow, Bradford, you sold out.
Coming your way on 101 ESPN.
The NBA Finals are on ESPN. Tonight, Celtics and Mavericks. Game 1. Pregame at 6:30. Tip-off at 7:30. Your home for the NBA is 101 ESPN.
Hey, there's some great things happening with my friends at Together Credit Union. Does your home need repairs, maybe an update or a remodel, but you don't want to pile on debt? Check out Together Credit Union's interest-only home equity line of credit. With Together Credit Union's interest-only home equity line of credit, you can borrow up to 90% of the current equity in your home and pay interest-only monthly payments in the first 10 years. Plus, there's no annual fees or prepayment penalties. Together Credit Union's interest-only home equity line of credit offers flexible borrowing, which means you can borrow as much as or as little as you need to make your house a home. And you can pay your balance at any time during the draw period and then borrow it again, which puts you in control of your finances. To learn more about Together Credit Union's interest-only home equity line of credit, stop by a branch or visit togethercu.org. Together Credit Union, federally insured by the NCUA.
Home of the best original trashed wings in St. Louis. Come see the best servers and bartenders in the area. Check out their daily lunch specials. Enjoy their outdoor deck cold drinks and try their signature golden sauce. Get entered to win that gift card for Fenton Bar and Grill right now, either at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app.
This is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One.
Time for Sick of It here on 101 ESPN. Wes Welker, who caught a ton of passes from Tom Brady and is now the Miami Dolphins wide receivers coach, says that he was disappointed in the Tom Brady roast. He said that he didn't expect that it was going to be as harsh as it was. He said, I was not asked to be a presenter. I was asked to sit on the side and get roasted, which I'm glad I wasn't there. To each their own, I guess. I'm sick of people that just don't want to laugh. Come on, it's humor is uncomfortable, but come on, Wes, you were there to have a good time and laugh, and Tom Brady was able to laugh during the roast, so if he can, you should be able to.
I agree. I watched that twice now, and both times I was uncomfortable watching it, but laughing as hard as I could because some of that stuff was unbelievable about what was being said. One time I was watching it in bed, and I was sweating. I had to take the covers off because I was sweating. I was so uncomfortable.
Well, that's what you like to do as an MC, right?
I love it.
The best humor is uncomfortable humor.
You got to be careful. My emceeing has changed over and it depends on what you're emceeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Depends on the crowd. Depends on the event. Hopefully there's no phones in the event.
Yep.
It's an event. But yeah, if you make people uncomfortable and laugh, that's what it's supposed to be about.
Oh, yeah, it is. So, Wes, I wish you would have liked it. I'm sick of the fact that you just don't have a sense of humor.
All right, I'm sick of Congressman Jim Banks entering the Caitlin Clark controversy. There's got to be more important things to do. An Indiana congressman is calling out the WNBA for opponents' treatment of Caitlin Clark in a letter sent to the commissioner, Kathy Engelbert. Quote, Indiana is a basketball state. We don't wince at aggressive defense, but this was not an example of playing tough. It was a cheap shot that could have resulted in an injury and should not be tolerated. Banks suggested the WNBA should discipline Carter and the Sky beyond its decision to upgrade Carter's foul to a flagrant one and fine the Sky and Reese for failing to make herself available after the media. Quote, it's also not only a disservice to Clark and the Indiana Fever, it's a disservice to the millions of young girls who are watching with dreams of playing in the WNBA one day.
Is this guy's name Jim Banks?
Jim Banks.
I don't know how old Jim Banks is. I don't know how long he's been around. But Jim Banks, I got two words for you. Ron Artest.
Right.
It's so ironic. Katie and I were watching
Malice in the Palace.
Malice at the Palace documentary last night.
Well, were you really?
Yeah, right. And we were laughing, but it was so outrageous. And it was precipitated by, of all teams, the Indiana Pacers. And I would argue that going into the stands and cold cocking a guy is not typical Indiana basketball.
By the way, today is the 80th anniversary of D-Day. I mean, we've got some more important things to be worrying about. We have World War II veterans that are, thank God, still with us. I mean, there's some more important things in this country to be worrying about, whether it was an egregious foul against Caitlin Clark. That's ridiculous.
I agree with you 100%. All right, Bradford, what do you got?
Yes, and Randy, by the way, I was at Gainbridge a little over a week ago. I can assure you that that type of behavior, not exactly condoned or supported by, yes, the powers that be in Indiana, indeed.
And I was thinking about this as I watched this. How fortunate are we that incident occurred at, of all places, the Palace at Auburn Hills?
Absolutely.
We were allowed to have the Malice at the Palace. It was perfect.
Are you kind of getting sick of the Caitlin Clark situation now, or do you kind of enjoy it?
I like watching her play, but I'm sick of the jealousy of the rest of the league.
The best way to put it is jealousy for sure. I mean, if you don't have Caitlin Clark, we're not talking about the WNBA.
We aren't at all. Nobody's ever heard of Chennedy Carter.
Chennedy. CH.
ENNEY.
There you go. From the 636, I am sick of seeing empty UFL stadiums with the exception of St. Louis. If this league is to last, if it's to persist, you've got to have more butts in the seats.
Yep, I agree. And I don't know how you solve that problem. I thought that the league had done the smart thing in moving to places like Memphis, like Birmingham, like San Antonio, where there aren't NFL teams. I thought fellow NFL-less cities would at least put more people in the stands than 7,000 or 10,000.
See, I disagree. I think it comes down to TV ratings. Now, does the presentation look poor when no one's in the seats? 100%. But are you getting ratings television-wise? And it's got to be in good markets. It's got to be in top 25 markets, which I don't know the answer to that. But if I'm getting ratings, then I think the league stays around. You don't feel all that way, don't you?
No, I just think there's a lot more that goes into it. And I don't know what the commitment is on the part of Redbird Capital and Fox. They own this thing jointly. I don't know what their appetite is to lose money. And they wouldn't make a precipitous amount more, right? Along with what you're saying, if they fill the stands. But I think they've got to reach a point where they can start making some money off of this. And ratings are a big part of it, too. There just have to be more eyeballs, whether it's in or outside of the stadium, on the games.
Not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot.
You got it.
Both of you guys, do you know what the average ticket price is for a UFL game, or roughly have an idea?
I believe here in St. Louis it's about $25.
Yeah, very affordable.
Yeah. It is. And by the way, you have 3 of your 8 teams in Texas where they're getting ready for high school and college football, right? They're in May now, June. They're getting ready for high school and college football. They aren't really concerned about pro football. Maybe there should be teams in San Diego and Oakland.
That's a good point. I mean, why not? Go to non-NFL cities that lost
what are
their
they
teams.
What are they looking forward to football-wise?
Yeah, that's a good point.
More from the 314, more from the WNBA. Sick of it, sick of Angel Reese and her act, perhaps as much as Kennedy Carter.
I don't know if Angel, with all due respect, I don't know if she really knows what she's talking about.
I'm not sure many do in this situation.
No.
They call it what it is. It's jealousy.
Yeah.
And also call it what it is. A good thing for the WNBA to have this so that more eyeballs are paying attention to it.
An Angel can be, if she can play, and I think she's a pretty good player, she can be a great villain because she does make it all about her, which is great.
And you got to have a good villain.
Yeah. And she's playing the part pretty well right now in the press conferences.
And even the reaction to her teammate's hip check of Clark.
Yeah.
It was all about her. Open arms. Let's embrace the one who just took the flagrant cheap shot.
Exactly.
Anyway, from the 314, something to which I think all of us can relate, guys. I am sick of people holding up the entire gas station while cashing in their lottery tickets or even purchasing them for that part.
Well, when you get to almost 600 million like you had the other night.
Hey, you got to have a little patience.
Yeah, right. And you know what? Credit to the folks at Mobile on the Run and Quick Trip, and I'm sure that I'm not a Circle K or 7-Eleven customer as much anymore, but they're pretty darn efficient. That system works pretty well.
Do you play the lotto?
Oh, yeah, you can't win if you don't play.
What would you do? Both of you guys, Bradford got up at 2 a.m. apparently.
Yeah.
Randy, you get up early for this show. I get up early for this show. If you won the lotto, would you be here tomorrow?
I would be here tomorrow, but probably, definitely would
2
not
weeks
next
notice?
week. Yeah.
Oh, not even 2 weeks.
Oh, no. Well, I would take a week off.
So that's a vacation week.
Yeah. I would change my lifestyle a bit, but I would continue to work.
Would you really?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You could travel. You could go take your son to go out to Arizona all the time and watch some baseball.
I might do the show from Arizona. That might be the change in lifestyle that I do.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Hadn't thought about that. That's something that's on the... You hadn't brought this up to me, Randall, but that's probably something you are thinking about.
You think I'm thinking?
I'm reading into this a little bit. Lotto or not, Randall's going out to Arizona.
Yeah, I think that's a possibility, Dan.
Yep. And I don't blame you. Hey, if the national show can do it with Chris Canty wherever he's at.
Thank you.
Michelle does it sometimes from St. Louis.
Yep.
It can be done seamlessly.
Yeah. Oh, and it sounds great.
Yeah.
Yep, we can make it happen.
3 cheers for technology.
Yeah. Thank you, Bradford.
Appreciate it.
And thank you very much for your texts. We do appreciate them. Coming up, our buddy Greg Amsinger of MLB Network, a native of St. Louis, and of course, a product of the Lindenwood University. He's coming up next on 101 ESPN.
Coverage of 101 ESPN is presented by Onder Law Injury Lawyers. GetJim.com. 101 ESPN has your chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to next Tuesday night's Budweiser Bash for Cardinals versus Pirates. It's the next Budweiser Bash game of the 2024 season and features a limited edition bobblehead giveaway featuring Cardinals Hall of Famer Jason Isringhausen. Keep listening to 101 for your chance to win a 4-pack of free tickets. And get all the details for this season's series of Budweiser Bash cards games now at cardinals.com/promotions.
Stewart's American Mortgage, that means it's all about Stewie, and Stewie joins us now here on 101 ESPN. My man, what do we have going today?
You know what, Danny? The bagel loan was invented to save you money. You don't have to pay any closing costs if you borrow more than $200,000. Take that money and put it towards other things that you need that are much more important. Now the question comes up, how much money do you need as a down payment? So we're going to make it better for you. How about 100% financing? 100% financing, no down payment. It's a conventional loan. You don't have any closing costs. You don't have any down payment. You can practically get into the house for nothing. Take advantage of the opportunity. As interest rates drop, there'll be more buyers out there. The prices are going to go up. So buy now. Refinance later with the bagel loan, you'll be way ahead of the game.
So if you're someone who is looking to purchase a home or refinance, if you're looking to consolidate some of that ugly credit card debt, maybe you don't know exactly what direction to go to in any of these things, we make it easy for you. Call Stewie from Stewart's American Mortgage. He's your guy. As he said, he makes it easy. Any questions on rates, the industry, the trends, give Stewart a call. Here's his direct personal cell phone. Text him, call him. He's on it right now, 314-324-4440. Again, that number, 314-324-4440. Or Stewie, you can Google
the bagel loan.
The bagel loan.
NMLS number 226715.
insight and honest opinions on the world of sports. Use the mic drop feature in the 101 ESPN app. Say it and send it to us. Now in the App Store or Google Play. Live from the Car Shield studio, this is the opening drive on 101 ESPN.
Lindenwood Product, Bradford Bruns is in for Matthew Rocchio today. Lindenwood Product, Danny Mack. Lindenwood Product, Randy Carricker. And we go to the celebrity line. And our friend, a native of St. Louis and, of course, a product of the Lindenwood University, Greg Amsinger is with us on 101 ESPN. Good morning, sir. How about this? How about this Lindenwood domination?
I mean, we are taking over the world. Holy smokes. It is pretty incredible what's happening right now. I'm telling you.
The world's in trouble then.
But Dan, I'm telling you, we have to kiss the ring of Randy Carricker because he's kind of the godfather that started all this, man. I'm telling you, you really are the guy that's pushed all these Lindenwood grads in this business, and for that, I'm indebted, my friend. I am indebted to you, Randy Carricker.
Feel the same way.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Greg, I watch your show, as you know, every night. I got particular joy out of watching last night with Buck Showalter back. He
is unlike anyone I've ever been on television with. And Abby LeBar was one of our new star hosts of Quick Pitch. She goes, what's it like hosting a show with Buck Showalter? And I go, it's actually really difficult. It's not easy because he is the definition of diarrhea of the mouth. He doesn't stop. You don't ever have to tee him up. He tees himself up all the time. Out of nowhere, he'd be like, hey, did you ever notice why pitching coaches are allowed to kick the dirt and mound? I don't understand that. We understand that pitchers do it, but if my pitcher just dug out a nice little hole and it's a great landing spot, why is the opposing pitching coach kicking the dirt when he walks up to have a conversation? Little things like that is weird. He sees things that no one's ever thought of seeing before. I love working with him. It's so fun. And last night, he to me, the comp is he's the John Madden of baseball. The way he thinks and talks about it, it's folksy, it's fun. He's great. He's so much fun to work with.
We have a lot of parity right now in Major League Baseball. 10 National League teams are under 500, but yet hovering around 500. What do you think that means as we move forward in some kind of movement with players for teams that need them?
You know what's funny, Dan? There are only a couple really bad teams that are out of it. Dunsville, the Rockies, the Marlins, and the Chicago White Sox. Everyone else is kind of 2 steps forward and 2 steps back. And the second you think the San Diego Padres have arrived and they're over 500, they get swept by the Angels. You just never know. These teams are all treading water. There are a handful of teams that are swimming, but the rest of the league is treading water. And it's almost like a game of musical chairs. We had this conversation last night, Dan. Everyone's waiting to see who's going to take off, get hot, and actually become that last playoff team and become that last force. And then you're thinking to yourself, wait, why do you need to wait for that? If you're the Pittsburgh Pirates, for example, and you look at a short division series pitching matchup, with the young 3 guys you have, why wouldn't you act like you're the San Diego Padres and start acquiring more bats and make sure that you have the firepower to win a series? If you could throw Paul Skeens game 1, Jared Jones game 2, you throw Keller game 3, you got to like that, right? That's not a fun team to play. And then out of nowhere last night, 36-year-old Aroldis Chapman is throwing 104 miles an hour. 104, and he's in your bullpen. So there are teams that you see the pieces and you understand why they should be buyers. But at the end of the day, front offices are so afraid of roster accountability, trading away young talent in the farm to go get players. There's only one guy that's not afraid of that, and that's A.J. Preller of the San Diego Padres. There are reports that he wants to go trade for Garrett Crochet. I mean, they're going to have all All-Stars and still be under 500 somehow. But everyone that's lurking, I think it's because of the expanded postseason, while you're going to see them continue to lurk until the trade deadline. Unfortunately, no one is taking off and going, we're all in, we believe. For example, the Seattle Mariners are in first place. There are only 2 teams that have scored fewer runs this year than the Seattle Mariners, and they're a first-place team, Chicago White Sox and the St. Louis Cardinals. That is it. That is sad. They should be immediately trading for Pete Alonso, but there are teams just floating around right now, and it's an odd thing for the game.
Greg, let me give you another team that should be out hunting for a bat. If I could add Blake Snell, Robbie Ray, and Alex Cobb to Logan Webb and Jordan Hicks in my rotation. All right? If I can add those three guys, and I've got Doval as my closer, I've got a pretty darn good bullpen with the Rogers twins. If I'm the Giants, I'm all over Pete Alonso.
I completely agree with you, 100%. And I was with his former manager last night, Buck Showalter, who doesn't think there's going to be a lot of buzz around Pete Alonso. He doesn't think that front offices value what he does anymore. That his slug is high, but his base running isn't good. He will not stay close to first base. He wants to bounce off and make crazy range plays at first base. He thinks that all the talk of Pete Alonso being the savior for teams, you're not going to see that. And he said, by the way, the New York Mets aren't exactly out of it yet. And he's right. I mean, to me, you're going to have to really sell your fan base on we wouldn't win in the postseason anyway, which is going to be a hard thing to do this year, fresh off what the Arizona Diamondbacks did last year. You have to sell your fan base that even if we get in, I know we're only a half game out of the second wild card. Even if we get in, we don't have the pieces. And with the pitchers you just mentioned, I don't know if the San Francisco Giants could sell that to a fan base that is starving for a winner. And that's what the Giants are right now.
Greg, we watch Mason win every night, and I'm curious, outside of this market, is he starting to garner some of the national attention of being a preeminent young shortstop in the game?
I did a Greg's list of the top shortstop seasons right now. And I personally do not believe paid professionals in Japan, because I think Japan has proven that their quality of baseball is incredibly high, that we shouldn't view it as minor league baseball. So I don't think Shota Imanaga or Yoshinobu Yamamoto are rookies. I don't think they are. And the psychology of getting a huge contract and not having to worry about being sent down because you already got generational wealth doesn't equal the psychology of a normal rookie. So I did not include them in my list. I had Mason Wynn as the fourth best rookie season. After I get done with my list, I walked back over to Mike Lowell that wanted to do a breakdown tape of why he thinks Mason Wynn's got the highest ceiling of all the guys on my list. And he talked about his defensive prowess. And I know he's had a couple, mental mistakes defensively last couple of days. But he's like, the bat is what doesn't get enough love. He's like, this kid has hit. And he's hitting the big leagues right now. And he goes, he weighs more than I did when I was in ninth grade. I mean, that's it. He's a tiny guy in terms of weight. He's legit. He's only going to get better. And he thinks Mason Wynn has the highest upside of any of the rookies. If you could take one rookie, it'd be Mason Wynn. That's Mike Lowell, World Series MVP, knows a little thing, too, about playing in the infield for winning ball clubs. So you're right. There are teams and there are experts out there that understand Mason Wynn has arrived, and he's only getting better.
Greg, the Cleveland Guardians have the third best record in all of baseball. They've been through multiple general managers over the years. John Hart was their general manager when they were going to the World Series. They've had, obviously, Chris Antonetti for a while, but Mark Shapiro was there as their president. They've had multiple managers. They've had a lot of players. They trade their stars before they lose them as free agents. Why are the Guardians always so good?
Their drafting and their development scouting, drafting, and development of young pitching. That is why they're always so good. No matter who they bring up to their rotation, it will end up being one of the top 5 rotations in the American League each and every year. That is unheard of. I mean, you have to go back to the Atlanta Braves, but they had 3 Hall of Famers in the rotation that they built around. This is an organization that says farewell to their starters and then always has another guy waiting in the wings. We talk about Jose Ramirez constantly. Up until a couple days ago, he was on pace to drive in 162 runs. We haven't seen that since one Manny Ramirez. But Jose Ramirez is one of the most valuable players in the sport. He's incredible. The reason why this team feels different, and the bullpen is the best in the game, in my opinion. The rotation is a pleasant surprise with Shane Bieber being lost for the year. But it's the slug support around Jose Ramirez that Jose Ramirez has never seen before. They already have more home runs in their outfield than they had all of last year. They did not hit a collective 20 home runs in their outfield last year. They had Miles Straw running around in center field. Couldn't hit any home runs. Stephen Kwan was playing left, should be a center fielder. He wasn't hitting any home runs. Now he's hitting 360, and I think he has more home runs this year than he had all of last year. but a guy named David Fry has really been a godsend. He's a complete surprise. He's a catcher, an outfielder, an infielder, great super utility, and he's swinging a red-hot bat. And Josh Naylor's on pace to hit 43 home runs and driving 116. So now you've got slug support around Jose Ramirez, and what we're seeing is if Jose Ramirez gets any kind of support, he's not just one of the best. He might be the best player in all of baseball because his base running is incredible. He might be the best base runner in the sport. The Guardians are for real. I put them, if I were going to do power rankings, it's the New York Yankees number 1. It's the Cleveland Guardians number 2, not the Baltimore Orioles, because the back end of their bullpen scares me still. We saw it last night with Craig Kimbrell. I love what the Guardians have in their pen. Their rotation, Tanner Bybee has been outstanding, and they finally have slug support for Jose Ramirez. This is better. This is a better team than we're giving them credit for, and Stephen Vogt is the front runner for AL Manager of the Year.
The Cardinals will face the Pirates, and they have that great young pitching, as you mentioned. I want to ask you about, though, Paul Skeens. Has he surpassed what people thought he might be this early in his career?
Yeah, absolutely. And lifelong baseball eyes, which I still value. Guys have been around the game for a very long time. They're the ones that are really showering him in complimentary comments. Buck Showalter last night was like, I've seen some guys come pretty hard, but it looks easy coming out of this kid's hand. I mean, he looks the size of a bull. I mean, look at this guy. My goodness. I'm like, yeah, he is physically bigger than other Mark Pryors and Kerry Woods. This is a body that is built to do this. And the way he throws a baseball just looks like he's slinging it with ease. It is easy triple-digit velocity. It looks like it doesn't feel uncomfortable in any way. And he's made 5 starts. He already has more 100-plus mile-an-hour pitches than anyone in the game. He is the modern-day flamethrower, and that one at-bat he had, I'm sorry, against Shohei Ohtani. I know Ohtani clicked him for 102 mile an hour, turned it around for a home run later in the game. But to punch out Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani the way he did, I was having flashbacks to Pedro in the All-Star game. Because that's essentially what it is when you face the top of the order for the Los Angeles Dodgers. You're facing an All-Star team. But Paul Skeens is as advertised for a number 1 overall pick. This kid's got a bright future.
Hey, Greg, before we let you go, one more thing. In 2019, the Washington Nationals went to the World Series as a wild card team. 2020, I don't even count. It was a COVID year. 21, the Braves are the playoff team with the worst record in the National League. They go to the World Series. 22, it's the Phillies. They're the playoff team in the National League with the worst record. They go to the World Series. 23, it's Arizona, playoff team with the worst record in the National League. They go to the World Series. So wild cards or teams, lowest seeds are getting there. If you squint real hard, could you envision the Cardinals sneaking in and then making a move during the postseason?
Yeah, absolutely I can. 100%. Like, this is one of the worst offenses right now in the sport, one of the bottom 2. And here they are, around 500. The starting pitching has done its job. The bullpen, for the most part this year, has been doing its job. They just haven't taken off offensively. Lately, the bats are a bit better. But when you're only looking at the Chicago White Sox as a team that has scored fewer runs in the sport, that is unrealistic. That is not what anyone thought the Cardinals would look like statistically. So, yeah, I still am bullish about the Cardinals. I know I sound like a homer, and I kind of wish I didn't. I wish I didn't proclaim that the Cardinals were going to be a playoff team this year, because now nationally when I say this, people think it's all because I was born in St. Louis. I have picked against the Cardinals many times during my time at MLB Network. I don't think they've got a good enough team. But this year, you can't sell me that the Milwaukee Brewers have more depth in their bullpen and rotation and lineup. Depth, true depth. I don't care what they're doing right now. Depth, and look at the names, and you tell me that the Milwaukee Brewers have a better baseball team than the St. Louis Cardinals. You wouldn't sell me on that. So I still think that the Cardinals could squeak in. And if you're going to play the game of worst record in the league and make some noise, could you imagine if the Cardinals squeaked in and the Kansas City Royals squeaked in? Because the Royals are an exciting team to watch. People need to tune into them. When your top 3 players are your best players and they're consistently your best players, that's a fun team. Maikel Garcia is a third baseman that does not get any love, on pace for like 17 homers and 100 RBIs. Steals bags, plays third. Then you got Bobby Witt, who could be an MVP candidate if he doesn't lose to Sal Perez his teammate who's slugging out of his mind again in his mid-30s. So what they've done in the rotation is great, but the Kansas City Royals are a dangerous team, and I still think the St. Louis Cardinals can make some noise if they got in.
And maybe Dan Hurley to the Lakers. Isn't sports great?
Oh, man, that bums me out, bro. Like, come on. Just be a Coach K. Do we learn anything from Coach K? That the pro league is just, they don't value coaching. It's not, they don't care anymore. So Coach K stuck with Duke, built a legacy, and do you think he's regretting it? No. He's probably got 7 statues of himself all over campus in Durham. I'm sorry. This is, to me, he needs to stay at UConn. Stay at UConn and be the king of the castle in stores. Although, have you ever been to stores? There's like a Papa John's pizza and maybe a White Castle, and that is it. So I don't blame him.
I'm good. Papa John's and White Castle. Greg, I'm good with those.
You're good. You're good. And you'll just like grub of it too. You won't even try it.
Exactly.
White Castle.
Hey, happy Lindenwood Day in the opening drive.
That sounds fun. I'll put my Lindenwood swag on right now, guys.
All right, brother. Have a great one, and keep up the great work. I love watching the show.
I appreciate that, guys. Take care, dude. See you later.
Take care. Greg Amsinger, MLB Network, and MLB Tonight. It is fantastic.
He's got 100 million reasons to go live on a beach in L.A. and leave stores.
Yeah, 100 million of them.
It's not a bad idea.
No, it's not.
No.
And hey, you just say, LeBron, you just take things easy. Just LeBron, you run things.
Yeah, because he's going to do it probably anyway.
Yeah.
So what's the difference?
Exactly. Coming up here on 101 ESPN, we've got Take It or Leave It. Get your text into the Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646. 314-399. Yo-ho!
Yo-ho.
Tioli next on 101 ESPN.
There it is.
You can now watch 101 ESPN live on our Air Alliance Team Studio Cams. Catch every show live on our YouTube channel or at 101ESPN.com. 101 ESPN Studio Cams.
Presented by the Air Alliance Team Heating and Cooling. Getting the job done quickly, correctly, 100% of the time.
You know, it's interesting in today's real estate market, cash offers are popular because they offer a fast sale for those who need it. While most investors or quick sale companies give you just one cash offer, my friend Gloria Lou will give you multiple cash offers to choose from in minutes. No open houses, sell as is, and move in or out when you want. That's the way it works with Gloria Lou, whose name is her promise and says it all. Your home sold, guaranteed realty. Gloria's mastered the home selling promise by guaranteeing upfront and in writing to sell your home at your agreed to price and time frame, or she'll buy it herself, and that is guaranteed. Does your agent compare? Gloria has buyers in place from a 20-year collection of names to a database that want to buy in your price range and, most importantly, in your neighborhood. Call Gloria Lou at 314-325-6888, 314-325-6888. She's the only agent I'd trust to sell my home, and you should use Gloria Lou as well. Learn more at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com. That's GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
The world's largest sports book in Las Vegas is now right at your fingertips here in Illinois. Hi, I'm Derek Stevens. I'm a lifelong sports bettor, and I'm the owner of Circus Sports. We're excited about launching our Circus Sports app in Illinois. It's sports betting the way it should be, with high betting limits, tight money line splits, exceptional customer service, and more. Download your new bookie today at circusports.com. Start betting like a pro from anywhere in Illinois.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
Card Salvage Series versus Houston. I'm Bradford Bruns with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Yesterday afternoon at Minute Maid Park, solid mound work powered St. Louis to a 4-2 victory over the Astros. Miles Michaelis threw just 62 pitches across 6 frames, and then the big three brought it home. JoJo Romero, Andrew Kittredge, and Ryan Helsley with 3 flawless innings. Redbird snare 1 of 3 from H-Town before finally returning home. Tonight, Sonny Gray draws Colorado, which is 16 games back out west. NBA Finals action begins on the East Coast roughly 12 or so hours from now. Dallas visiting Boston, featuring Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. The latter talked last week about ending his organization's championship drought.
Just embrace it. At this point, I'm at that phase in my life, and I'm grateful that I'm able to be in this position, and the energy is about to shift.
Pre-game set for 6:30 on these airwaves. This SportsCenter update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
This is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One. It's time for Take It or Leave It.
Want to say something? Put it out there. If you like it, you can take it. If you don't, send it right back.
Get your text into 314-399-9646 and give us your Take It or Leave It.
Brought to you by Gloria Lou Realty. Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com and start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
All right, it is time for Tioli. Get your text in now. Gentlemen, Danny Mac, Bradford Bruns. The Stanley Cup Championship, Stanley Cup Final starts Saturday night. Take it or leave it. In that series, there will be a fight.
I'm going to take that, and I'm going to say that it's going to be Matthew Tkachuk right in the middle of it.
I'm going to go with Matthew Tkachuk and Evander Kane.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's so physical. I mean, they're so physical. Mm-hmm. Florida, they can come in and just beat up on the Edmonton Oilers.
Frustrate somebody.
Yep.
And said scuffle will take place on Saturday night on 101 ESPN. They get the fisticuffs going right away.
I like it.
What a promotion there, Bradford.
You're welcome.
All right, take it or leave it. 9-inning games right now are under 2.5 hours. So 9-inning games under 2.5 hours, 40% of the time. Last year was 30%. 2022, only 4%. So after the rule changes, it's made a difference. Take it or leave it. That difference has been a better quality of baseball for the viewer.
100% take it. And the thing that entered my mind when you brought that up, Dan, was that our attention span as a country is so low. It's hard for people to pay attention for 3 hours. It's hard for people to pay attention for 2 hours and 40 minutes. So just from that perspective, in and of itself, I would say that the product is better. But I do think the product is cleaner and it's more fun to watch and it's got more action than it had before.
You had no errors committed by the Cardinals yesterday. Ooh. And I think that's a product of how the game was played. It was crisp. You looked up and it was the 5th inning. It was about 50 minutes into the game. I mean, it was flying by, and I think that's a better product.
Total time, 2 hours. 2 hours to complete yesterday's series finale.
Yep.
Just ridiculous.
Well, and a guy like Michaelis, pitching to contact, he doesn't strike many guys out, and that keeps the fielders more engaged.
For sure. Yeah, that's a big difference. You're not just sitting back waiting for a strikeout, which is part of the game, and he's kind of an anomaly in the fact that he's not only pitching to contact, but soft contact, so fielders, outfielders are into every single pitch.
Right. 3 strikeouts, no walks.
Speaking of the pucks, the 618 weighs in. Take it or leave it, gentlemen. One of the Tkachuk brothers will eventually wear the blue note on his chest.
I'm going to take it.
I'm going to take it, and I think it'll be Brady at some point.
I think we need to get both of them here at some point. Once they're in their 30s, Matthew's deal will end when he's 30 or 31. And I guess it depends on where Walt and Chantel are at that point, because they've got a house in Florida. So maybe they move down there. But I would think that those kids, their roots, their DNA is in St. Louis. I would think at least one of them will wind up here.
Take it or leave it. You got to find a way, if you're the Blues, to bring one of the two back to their hometown of St. Louis.
I'll take that.
Yeah. I'll take it. Absolutely.
Find a way.
Take it or leave it. The Cards are over 500, not at the 500 mark, over 500 when the All-Star break rolls around.
I'm going to leave it because they haven't been above 500. But do they have a chance? They could be over 500 after this weekend, actually. They're 29-31. You got 4 against the Rockies. They could be over 500 by the time this weekend ends. But Man, you've got a month and a half before the All-Star break, and I know this is a good schedule for the Cardinals coming up, but I think they're a 500 team.
Right now, 13 of the 16 games upcoming on the schedule are against under 500 teams, and 10 of the 16 are at home. So if you're going to get above 500, this is a stretch of baseball where you should do it. Now, I think a factor in this is that they only have 2 games, or rather 2 days off in the month of June. That builds up, and that can be tough, but the schedule is beneficial for them here for about a 2.5-week stretch.
Rockies will be a handful. Going to Chicago will be a handful. The Marlins are not good. And then you got the Giants at Rickwood on the 20th, a Friday off, and then the Giants here on the 22nd and 23rd, and that's basically a coin flip, right? And then you've got Atlanta here and the Reds here. So for the rest of June, Cardinals will let me put it this way. I believe that every game the Cardinals play, they have their hands full.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And, you know, the record kind of indicates that, as you mentioned, hovering around 500. They've got to play better at home, too, at Busch Stadium. They're only a game above 500 at Busch, and if you're going to get to those benchmarks of 5 games above or 10 games above, you got to be able to take care of business at home.
And the last stretch was the 7-1 stretch before they went on the road trip, right? They won 7 of 8 on the previous homestand, so maybe they've kind of turned the corner there.
Take it or leave it between Alec Burleson and Jordan Walker. Burley becomes the more dependable long-term bat.
I'm going to leave that. I think Jordan Walker is going to be sustainable at some point in his career. Now, is it going to be around the All-Star break, or, as Randy says, around his bobblehead, which is coming up, what is it, Friday?
Tonight.
Tomorrow.
It is tonight?
Yeah, 6 tonight.
Oh.
Yeah, he's not going to be here.
He's not going to be here. Well, you never know. Maybe they make a late move.
You're planning on it?
You're still on the clock, Randy.
Okay, well, thank you.
I'm trying to help you out here.
I was hoping, but I don't think it's going to happen.
I think he could be long-term. I do. I mean, the skill set is there. It just, he's obviously getting more seasoning in the minor leagues, and Burleson is taking the ball and run with this thing and getting a chance to play, and he should be in the lineup every day. But in terms of long-term, they're not going to give up on Jordan Walker anytime soon. So I do think that'll be a guy that you can count on in the future.
I'm with you there.
And Dan, honestly, the enticing part about that, the equation, when you think about Walker and Burleson, you have 2 guys who ultimately you would hope, I think the organization hopes, project as line drive bats, not just behemoths in the power department, but if Walker is able to go gap to gap as opposed to consistently hitting it on the ground, same thing with Burleson. You're not talking about sheer raw power, but that's what you want, going gap to gap.
It is shocking that he only has 1 home run.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, that just is shocking. For a guy that build, as big as he is, the fact that he's got power, 1 home run, that is cause of concern.
Had 1 for 4 last night with an RBI, and he grounded into a double play. Walker
Ouch.
did.
Yep.
Time for one more?
Yep.
One more? All right, here we go. Dan, right up your alley. Take it or leave it. PGA Tour and LIV will merge next year to get those golf ratings, attendance, all of the figures back up. A little bit of, civility.
I'm going to take it. And I think the PGA of America showed the pathway to do this. So if you looked at how the PGA Tour with the PGA Championship and the PGA of America kind of came together on this, in particular the PGA of America, which is separate from the PGA Tour, and you had the PGA Championship, and you had certain guys coming from LIV, and invitations were extended. I think that's the key. The invitations were extended to the LIV players. I do think there's a pathway to make this happen. The sport needs to make sure that this happens, too.
Agreed. Thank you, Bradford.
Yes, sir.
And thank you very much for the text. We do appreciate it. Hey, how important at the end of the day is his homestand against Colorado and Pittsburgh? That's coming your way on 101 ESPN.
Attention 101 listeners.
You can join Kyle Gibson, Tommy Edmond, Paul Goldschmidt, Ryan Helsley, Nolan Arenado, Steven Matz, and Miles Michaelis
In supporting some amazing causes during Big League Impact's All-Win campaign.
Consider making a donation in exchange for fun prizes and giveaways from Big League Impact. See the full list of foundations and programs being supported by this year's campaign and find all the details on how you can help support this year's All-Win Drive.
With Big League Impact, now at 101ESPN.com.
If you want an absolutely fabulous lunch, head on over to the Fenton Bar and Grill on Rudder Road in Fenton. Take advantage of the most incredible trash wings you'll ever have. They are scrumptious at Fenton Bar and Grill. They're great, and you have some of that fantastic ranch or signature golden sauce with your wings, and you will have a sensational a sensational lunch, and then their mouth-watering chicken Caesar wrap, which is fantastic. They also have beautiful burgers, tantalizing sandwiches. Everything that you want in a sensational lunch is there for you at the Fenton Bar and Grill. The people are wonderful. Say hi to the feisty redhead Kelly and say hi to Megan and Colleen and the gang. They're great, and they'll serve you very well. And, of course, it's all about sports at the Fenton Bar and Grill. So when you go, you're going to have great food. You're going to have great service. You're going to have a great atmosphere. It doesn't get any better than the Fenton Bar and Grill. Learn more at FentonBarandGrill.com. It's only 2 minutes away from the soccer park in Fenton. And when you go, tell them Randy sent you to the Fenton Bar and Grill.
WXOS HD1 East St. Louis. 101 ESPN is driven by Auto Centers Nissan, home of the lifetime warranty and 30-day return. Live from the Car Shield studio, this is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. A fresh perspective on today's top stories. This is Fresh Take.
Presented by Lindenwood University. Real experience, real success.
After the Cardinals' longest trip of the season, they're back home to take on the Rockies tonight at the ballpark, and it is Jordan Sky Walker bobblehead night. If you have that bobblehead, enjoy that, because that's all you're going to see of Jordan Walker tonight at the ballpark. But the Cardinals do take on the Rockies in the opener of a 4-game series, and it'll be Cal Quantrill going for Colorado against Sonny Gray of the Cardinals. The Rockies are only 21-40, and then the Pirates come to town. And with the Cardinals hovering right around 500, Dan, I think this is an important time for the Cardinals not to slip up. At some point, they're going to have to go on a run, and maybe this is where a run starts. If you want to get in the playoffs, you have to go on a run. The way the team is playing right now, I don't see that, but you need to keep treading water, and this would be, if you could go 3-1 in this in this series against Colorado.
That's where I got to 3 out of 4.
3 out of 4, and then you're at 500. And then the Pirates are pretty darn good, and you just have to hold serve against the Pirates.
And you're going to see Paul Skeens next week. So if you're wondering if he's going to pitch in the Cardinals series, his turn in the rotation would be up
on Wednesday, I believe.
Yeah, the Rockies only have 8 wins on the road. Mm-hmm. So this is a team that they need to take care of business with. Don't overlook Pittsburgh. They're a half game back of St. Louis. So while you always think that they're the doormat of the Central, not necessarily this year. The other thing about the Rockies, too, they give up a ton of runs. 5.5 runs per game. That's most in Major League Baseball. Mm-hmm. So this should be a series where you take care of business.
And the Rockies traditionally are pretty good at letting letting good players go. What's that? 5.5 runs a game that they're allowing?
5.5.
They have this pitcher that's allowing. He's got an ERA of 3.06 that pitches tomorrow. He's pretty good, relatively speaking. His name is Austin Gomber.
Isn't
Don't know
that
if you've heard of him.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, it's great. And pitching in that ballpark and pitching the way that team is pitching, he is he's not a sore thumb. He sticks out like a beautiful thumb.
I've never heard that.
I haven't either, but he's not sore. Everything's going good for Austin Gomber. So he is
a beautiful thumb.
Yeah,
I love that.
He goes against Lance Lynn tomorrow. But I do think when we look at this season, if the Cardinals have done anything in terms of making the playoffs, and that's a dicey proposition, right? But this is going to be a big series to not get knocked out. You can't allow Colorado to gain any ground. You can't allow them to split in this series.
No, I agree with you. I think you got to take 3 or 4, if not get a sweep. Now, it's very, very hard to sweep, as we saw yesterday for the Astros against the Cardinals. I'm going to take it even a little bit further here, Randy, is that they have 16 games coming up. A lot of those on paper would be winnable. 13 of the 16 against teams that are under 500. The other 3 are against the Cubs. They're at 500. 10 of the 16 at home. And I'll go back to this. If you're going to make a run inside the division, if you're going to make a run, period, you got to play better at Busch Stadium. The Cardinals are just a game above 500 at Busch. And it comes down to winning at home. We talk about this a lot. You can play 500 on the road and go to increments of 5 at home. And if you do that, above 500, if you do that, you're going to be playing winning baseball in October and late September.
And Dan, the Cardinals play today, obviously. Today is June 6th. Between now and June 21st, the Cardinals only have the one off day. And they've got Andre Pallante. I almost said Vicente Palacios. They've got Andre Pallante as their 5th starter. They're going to have issues with their starting pitching during the course of the next 15 days. I don't know how they solve that problem.
And bullpen has shown some cracks, too. Mm-hmm. You know, when you look at Romero 2 nights ago, and I think you have to be very cautious with how much you use them in the next couple of weeks. I really do. I mean, and really this month, I think you have to be careful with how much you use them, just because there's cracks in the armor a little bit in the back end of this bullpen, and you're not healthy. So does somebody emerge from the minor leagues, take a starter, put him in the back, or not the back end of the bullpen, but put him in the bullpen? Does someone get a spot start if Pallante is ineffective? Because you cannot have every 5th day what you had the other day. You need Pallante to be like he was in Cincinnati, or some form or fashion of that, just to give you a chance to hang around.
Okay, so with the way the Pirates are going and the knowledge that we're going to see, I think we see both James and Skeens against the Pirates. So if the Cardinals go 3-1 against the Rockies, 1-2 against the Pirates, is that satisfactory as they head out on the road to take on the Cubs and the Marlins?
Not me. I think
you got to take 2 out of 3 against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you got to win series. If I'm at home, I think you got to win series. And if you go 500 against the Rockies, that's a disappointment. Even though you're going to face really good pitching against Pittsburgh, you got to find a way to win series at home.
At the end of the day, that's 100% the case. And here's the thing with the Cardinals. There is no such thing as an easy part of the schedule. I've thought that I thought last year that, okay, well, we get past the tough part of the schedule and then things will lighten up for the Cardinals. I don't think the way the Cardinals are constituted and the way they play, and this is part of the parity that you talked about with Greg, there are no easy stretches for the Cardinals.
You talk about teams that are under 500, 10 of them in the National League. Cardinals are one of them.
Yeah.
So this has been average team right now because you're at 500. Mm-hmm. You're not the 5 above. You're not the 10 above. I do give them the credit, though, for getting back in this thing when they went on that 12-3 run in 15 games. You were talking about making runs. At least the run came at the right time, because that they were close to folding tents, I thought. When you had that series in Milwaukee and the Sunday game in which Ollie got ejected and things took off from there, they were close to being done, I felt like. I mean, that would have put them, 9 or 10 games out. Now, saying done is it's probably a little too much, but they were not going in the right direction. Yeah, and with no signs of life.
Right.
That's the problem I had. It looked dead out there, and now there's some signs that things are coming along, especially offensively.
And here's the thing: if you play clean baseball, and they have not played clean baseball of late, but if you play clean baseball with the parity that exists against teams like the Pirates, the Marlins, the Giants, the Reds, and allow the other team to beat themselves, you can pull that off. So the Cardinals are going to have to clean things up too. But they're capable. We know they're capable.
They are capable, and I talk about this all the time. Because of a team that's around 500, they don't get away with making a couple errors and winning games. Not many teams do, don't get me wrong, but the margin of error is slim. It's very slim with this team, so you have to play clean baseball just to have a chance to win these games.
Coming up later in the show, and by the way, that's our Fresh Take here on 101 ESPN. Coming up later, we're going to give away Bud Bash tickets for next Tuesday night. And the Bud Bash game on Tuesday features Jason Isringhausen, the Cardinal Hall of Famer. And we are going to talk to said Cardinal Hall of Famer and former closer Jason Isringhausen next on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN has your chance to win tickets to see your St. Louis Battlehawks host the San Antonio Brahmas in a home playoff game this Sunday at the Battle Dome at America's Center. Be part of the home field advantage when the Battlehawks take on the Brahmas for conference supremacy. With only one team moving on to the United Football League Championship. Get all the ticket info for this Sunday's Battlehawks playoff game.
And find that chance to win a pair of free tickets right now, either 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app.
Hey, if you're in charge of a business or own a business, you know that making connections with your audience can be a daunting challenge. And you need, in 2024, to be able to use the internet. You need to be able to use your app. You need to be able to use social media and have a great website. And that's where our sister company, 2060 Digital, comes into play. You can learn more by going to 101ESPN.com/2060Digital. And what they do is put together a fabulous website for you. They're going to provide a great template for how to use social media, how often to use social media, how to go about it. And they know the algorithm so that when you search, your company comes out on top during the search process. The team at 2060 demystifies the process and turns a challenge into an opportunity for your business. 2060 Digital can handle all of your social media and digital needs. All you need to do is go to 101ESPN.com/2060Digital and request a complimentary digital audit today.
This is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One.
Dan McLaughlin, Randy Carricker. Brooke Grimsley is out. She's getting married on Saturday, so she's not here. Bradford Brun's in for Matthew Rocchio, and it's the opening drive on 101 ESPN. And Jason Isringhausen, the Cardinal Hall of Famer, has a Busch Bud Bash game featured Tuesday night at Busch Stadium, and we're going to talk about that as we go along here. But I want to start with this. Izzy, first of all, good morning, and thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Good morning, guys. What's going on?
So I don't even know the answer to this question, but I want you to tell the audience who your favorite two media people in St. Louis are.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
This could get you in a little trouble, but also make you a favorite of two guys behind the mic right here.
Well, as of right now, I would say it's Randy and Dan.
Oh, what a guy.
Thanks,
or Dan and Randy. How about that?
I appreciate that. So you have this event coming up. I want to go back to when you came to the Cardinals. Can you give us a little bit of an idea, like pull back the curtain a little bit of how this all happened when you were a free agent, and maybe how ownership got involved, or your relationship with Walt, or just coming back home? What was the final decision for you to make sure that you were a Cardinal?
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't think I was going to be a Cardinal at the time. We had no conversations with the Cardinals whatsoever during the free agency process. I went to a couple of different teams to meet with everybody. I have family that lives down in the Dallas area, and we went down and we met with Mr. Hicks, who was the owner of the Rangers at the time, and everything went well with there. So they had offered me a contract, a 4-year deal, and I came home and I talked to my agent, my wife, my family, and we were going to be a Texas Ranger, and that was the final saying, and I was home, and a buddy of mine asked me to go golfing with him. We went out to the golf course. We were actually at Gateway Golf Course there down in Illinois, across the river from you guys. And my phone rang, and it said Cincinnati, Ohio. I didn't pay any attention to it, so I didn't even answer it. I checked my voicemail, and somebody said they were Mr. DeWitt. And I'm like, whatever. Somebody's playing games. And so I called him back, and I got a voicemail, and I left him a message, and we kind of played back and forth, and I ended up talking to Mr. DeWitt, and he was like, "Hello, Jason, how are you?" And I'm like, "There's no way this is happening to me right now." And he asked me what it would take to be a Cardinal, and I wasn't very good at negotiating. I've never been my own negotiator, and I'm just like, I just blurted out a number, and he's like, "Done." I was like, "Could ask for more." But that was kind of how it went down, and I came home, told my wife, I'm like, "Hey, we're gonna sign with the Cardinals now," and like we'd had this big presser and everything about the Rangers, and had to do a little backtracking, but everything worked out well, and next thing I know, I was the St. Louis Cardinals, and the family was happy, and I couldn't have made a better decision.
I asked a trivia question yesterday, and I hope you know the answer to this one, because I thought it fooled people. I think it did. Who you got your first save with, and you actually were coming out of the bullpen with the Mets. How did you like when they moved you to the pen?
Well, at the time, I was didn't really know what I was doing in my career. I was a starter, came up as a starter in the minor leagues. Started my first year in the big leagues as a starter, and then I came back the next year, and things weren't quite the same. My shoulder was a little sore. I was, my arm was kind of worn out a little bit already, and I was only 23, 24 years old. But I came back with Tommy John. I was throwing a bullpen, a side session, and something popped on my elbow again. I thought I was done, but it was just some scar tissue breaking, and so I couldn't throw more than about 50 pitches before my elbow started really hurting. So they moved me to the bullpen, made me a long guy, and did that a couple of times. I got my first save, like you said, 3-inning save, like the old guys used to do back in the day. Mm-hmm. And but then Billy Beane with the Oakland A's traded for me. They traded myself and Greg McMichael for Billy Taylor back in the day with the Oakland A's, and as soon as I got to Oakland, Billy said I was going to be closing, and I was in the bullpen with the elderly guy that had been around for a long time. Oh gosh, I can't remember. Change-up guy from the Cleveland Indians, Doug Jones.
Doug Jones, yep.
Yep, Doug Jones was in the bullpen with me, and I just sat next to him, and we talked every day for about 2.5 weeks. And my very first opportunity to close out a game was in Yankee Stadium, and I was, just kind of clueless about the whole thing, and I just reared back and threw everything as hard as I could back in the day. And it worked out, and, started getting my feet wet doing that, and we made the playoffs a couple times with the Oakland A's. We had some pretty good teams back in the day, and being able to close out games in Yankee Stadium made everything else seem pretty easy. So, I went from there, and when I became a free agent, I got to come to the Cardinals. So it was just a blessing.
Cardinals Hall of Famer Jason Isringhausen is our guest from Brighton, Illinois. And we had a conversation about this yesterday about it can be beneficial to play in your hometown, but also can be very tough on you or your family. How did you approach that situation? And as as you reflect on it, what did you think about playing in your hometown?
I actually loved it. I mean, the hardest part is actually having to just say no to people. There's a lot of people that come out of the woodwork saying that they're, best friends and family and stuff, and everybody's pulling on you from different directions to do this and do that. But just learning how to say no. When I first started doing this, they used to give us free tickets all the time. So it wasn't that big a deal to give out tickets. Like my opening day in Chicago, I left like 250 tickets. But today's game, now we have to pay for our tickets, and we get taxed on all of them. So once that started happening, telling everybody no was a lot easier because I had to pay for the tickets. They weren't free. So, but that was the main thing, just learn how to say no to people.
Hey, you mentioned that you had that old school 3-inning save, and you had a lot of 2-inning saves as a member of the Cardinals, and most of your saves were of the 1-inning variety. And you work with young pitchers now, and you talk the mentality of pitching with them. Is it possible for a team to put together a system where relievers are prepared to go more than 1 inning?
Oh, of course. Yeah, it's all about how you train your guys and how you train your arms. When I work with our double, because that's what I'm trying to do from our double and triple A guys. We're trying to, if we know that these guys are going to be relievers, we need to start training them. Because, usually in the minor leagues, we try to pitch them once and then give them a day off and this and that. But in reality, when they get called up, if you're a rookie, you're going to pitch every single day. And we have to train these guys to be able to be available. I try to tell them their best ability is their availability when they get to the big leagues. And you have to be able to throw multiple times a week. And if you train them to do it, and it's just training your mind and your body the same way, it's just part of life as a big leaguer, especially as a younger guy. That if the team needs you, you have to be available.
You had a long career. You're wearing a red jacket, so part of the Cardinals Hall of Fame, all-time saves leader in Cardinals history. As you reflect on a long career, a lot of injuries, a lot of ups and downs, Izzy, in your career, what are you most proud of? What stands out for you?
I think, numbers aside, I always wanted to be remembered as a good teammate. I wanted to be known as somebody who took the ball, whether he was 100% or 10%. My job was to try to protect the lead, and for my teammates that have worked for 3 hours, and I always said I'm trying to do it for my teammates, my family, and my city, and and the birds on the bat, and just being able to go out there and give it everything I had. Some days it didn't work out, but for the most part it did. But just being able to be available for my team and everybody else, and make sure I did the right things and I treated everybody correctly. And then I was always, when they talk about being a good teammate, I always wanted to make the guys around me better and trying to make the young kids understand what it took to be a big leaguer. Like Johnny Franco and those guys with the Mets back in the day taught me the professional way to go about things. Just trying to do that and make sure that the kids were ready, and it worked out for the most part.
Izzy, do you have any idea how many different types of Jason Isringhausen bobbleheads are out there? Do you have them on a mantle at home?
I don't. It's such a crazy thing to think that you have your own bobblehead, but no, and some of them are really good, and some of them don't look nothing like me. And we've gotten better over the years, but yeah, it's a crazy honor, and I love it. And it's going to be a fun time Tuesday night with the Bud Bash. It's always a good time when you get to celebrate something like that.
And I think that this one, it must have been after clinching a division or something, because it's got your arms in the air, and it's a good. It is a good Jason Isringhausen as a player likeness.
Yeah, I think it's from 2004 when I got that final out ground ball to Vizcaino, I think, from the Astros. And kind of put my arms, like the last one I had me holding a cell phone like I was going around in the car and stuff like that. And I'm like, where do we find, who fixes what we use? But it is what it is, and it's just a great honor to be able to do something like this.
I got to say, you keep yourself in shape. That red jacket still fits every time I see you on opening day.
Well, I'm on Danny. Now, come on, you knew this is a loaded question.
No, it's not. You look. I'm giving you a compliment. I think you look great.
I'm on my second red coat.
Oh, I didn't know that. I really didn't know that. I was like, man, that thing still fits. It looks great on you.
That's awesome.
The first one's a little tight across the back, so I had to get a new one. And I'm trying to get back into the first one because the second one they made me is a little pink. And I don't know why they can't get the same color material, but it didn't work out. But yeah, I'm trying to lose a little weight so I can get back in that first coat.
And by the way, how cool is it for you to have Matty Moe joining you in the Cardinal Hall of Fame?
Oh, Matty Moe and Dunk at the same time is pretty special. I'm just so happy that the Veterans Committee picked Dave Dunk. He was so instrumental to everybody that came here to St. Louis, and a man of few words, but when he spoke, boy, did you listen. And the man who started the analytical trend, perhaps, he always had that big trunk full of all the books of all the teams and positioning and what you threw, and just an amazing man. You know, everybody's getting up there in age. I'm just glad that Dunk's going to be able to come into St. Louis. I wouldn't blink because that speech might not last very long.
Hey, Izzy, I got to tell you this because it's fun. When I had the honor of interviewing Dave when he went into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, and I said, over all of the years of being a pitching coach in baseball, what are you most proud of? And he thought for a second, and he said, getting 18 wins out of Kent Bottenfield.
and you got Jimmy Edmonds here with Ken Bottenfield. So
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, and he mentioned that, turning Bottenfield into Jimmy Baseball. Hey, it's always great to hear your voice. We're excited that you're getting the Bud Bash, and I am going to click on right now, and I'm going to buy tickets. I'm not going to ask you for an autograph, but I just want to have the bobblehead. I can get enough Izzy autographs, I think. Can I? Right?
Anytime. You know that. It'll be great.
You're the best.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Izzy. Talk to you later.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Jason Isringhausen, the Cardinal Bud Bash taking place on Tuesday, and you can get tickets at cardinals.com/promotions.
He's one of my all-time favorites.
Mine, too. And the most ashamed I've ever been as a Cardinal fan was when he reached a point where he was struggling, but you never questioned, if you were a rational fan, you never questioned Jason Isringhausen's desire to win and try and compete. And when he reached a point late in his career where he didn't feel comfortable in bringing his family to the game, I thought that was the worst.
Terrible. And I also think his longevity in the game, I think he's had like 18 or 19 surgeries on his body.
3 Tommy Johns or just 2?
I think 2, but he also had a shoulder impingement, so he dealt with that too. I mean, he may have had 3, Randy. He may have, now that I reflect on it. But the fact that he talked about it, your best ability is your availability. And he made himself available every single night, good, bad, and different. And that's what I loved. I think he did have 3 Tommy Johns, which is just incredible.
It's amazing. He's a great guy, great Cardinal, great St. Louis area representative, Jason Isringhausen, and our thanks to him. Coming up, we've got the fight, and we need a fighter. All you need to do is text in to the text line, the Air Comfort Service text line.
You are stumbling a little bit because you're not sure whether to go down that road of
I know. It's 314-399-9646. 314-399 yo-ho.
Already did it.
But Dan, you got to make up for Brooke today.
No.
Matthew.
I was looking at the contract. It said no.
No yo-ho.
No.
It's a special day, Dan. It's Lindenwood Day.
I don't care.
It's Lindenwood dominating here today. All right, just text in with your name and the word fight, and maybe Bradford will pick you to fight me next year on 101 ESPN.
It's time for a DraftKings at Casino Queen Redbird report on 101 ESPN.
Cards make more than quick work of Strohs. I'm Bradford Bruz with your Redbird report. In a tidy 2 hours yesterday afternoon, St. Louis subdued host Houston 4-2 with a few well-timed hits and stellar pitching from all parties involved. Starter Miles Michaelis set the tone by tossing 6 ultra-efficient frames, surrendering 2 solo homers before handing it over to that much ballyhooed big three. Jojo Romero, Andrew Kittredge, and Ryan Helsley took care of the final 3 outs. Offensively, Nolan Arenado bashed his 6th long ball. Ali Marmol's crew now returns home at long last, battling Colorado tonight. Sonny Gray will ramp up matters shortly after 6:30. 29-year-old Cal Quantrill is the mound option for Bud Black.
The Redbird Report is presented by DraftKings at Casino Queen. Play, stay, dine at DraftKings at Casino Queen.
Hey, I want you to know about a great Father's Day idea. It is Sound Story. And if you don't know what Sound Story is, what we do is we actually do a podcast of a family member or a friend of yours. And you can be interviewed by Anthony Stalter or Tim McKernan or I. And the way it works is you'll come into the studio and we can either do an audio or a video interview of your family member, your dad, and it can be preserved for life. And you can see and hear your dad's life story. And it really is an amazing idea. And with Father's Day right around the corner, all you need to do is go to mysoundstory.com and use the promo code ESPN, and you can get a 10% discount. You and your siblings can go in on that gift certificate and get Dad a sound story at mysoundstory.com. And it couldn't be any easier to purchase a gift certificate. All it takes is a few clicks, and you'll have given the most thoughtful gift your dad will ever have received. You can preserve your dad's life story, his smile, his laugh, and save it for your family to enjoy for generations to come. Go to mysoundstory.com and enter the promo code ESPN. Sound Story, for you, for them, forever.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends at Rhino Shield. Plenty of businesses around the area have used Rhino Shield's product. Rhymes Heating and Cooling in South County, St. Luke's Lutheran Church in Campbell Hill, Illinois, the Gravois Village Shopping Center in High Ridge. That's my neck of the woods. All of these businesses called Darren at Rhino Shield. Why? Because the exterior of their business needed a facelift, whether it was water damage, whether it was paint chipping off. The look didn't match the product, and that's why they called Rhino Shield, because they wanted the facelift. Rhino Shield uses a ceramic coating. It's not paint, which means you're going to get the proper product that when you use Rhino Shield's work, you never have to worry about it again. It's a 2 to 3 coat process. It's 100% waterproof. It deflects 90% of the UV rays. You set it and forget it, and you get a 25-year transferable warranty. Have Darren come out from Rhino Shield, give you a free estimate, 877-25-RHINO, 877-25rhino.com.
It's the Brown and Crouppen Morning After Daily Podcast, one of the longest-running podcasts in St. Louis.
Gentlemen, we welcome to the studio the great Michael Rappaport. Good. How are you?
Good. I'm better on the radio if I get a little Starbucks, a little juiced up. Trying to eat some good food, trying to do some good shows. Try to get a little vibe of the city. It's hard when you just pop in and out.
But I'm
we
call St. Louis the Garden Spot of the Great Plains.
The Garden Spot of the Great Plains. And how did you get that name?
We got nothing else going for us.
Got you.
We beat out Omaha for that, by the way.
Find the Morning After podcast at tmastl.com.
a part of the show. Text the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation text line at 314-399-9646 on 101 ESPN. Live from the Car Shield studio, this is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Carricker.
8:39 in St. Louis, the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Danny Mac, Bradford Bruns, Randy Carricker. He is outside the studio. Now, I'm going to say this, Bradford. I know one bummer, the name of one bummer.
Yeah.
And he apparently has made it to the fight.
How about that?
So this is Bummer, I would assume, from Whitmore Country Club. Am I right, Bummer?
You are 100% correct.
How you doing, buddy?
Good, you?
I'm doing well. Have you ever taken on Randy in the fight, or do you, like, Randy goes out to Whitmore and do you guys just have conversations about random trivia?
No, I'm 0-2, and it's hard to beat somebody 3 times.
Well, it is. I'm telling you that. And you know what, Randy? It's tough to sweep in baseball. It's tough to get a sweep on the fight. So here we go, Bummer. Are you ready to go?
Yes.
Bradford has question 1.
Bummer, tonight at Busch Stadium, the Cardinals and Rockies, of course, kick off their first series of the season. When Colorado last reached the playoffs, most recently, was back in 2018, who won a staff-high 17 games. Those choices are as follows: John Gray, Jorge De La Rosa, or Kyle Freeland?
De La Rosa.
Final answer?
Yes.
Bummer, you better get this one. We are just 1 week away from golf's third major of the year, the U.S. Open. How many times has Tiger Woods captured a championship? Is it 3 times, 5 times, or 6 times?
5 times.
Oh, bummer. Okay, here we go with question 3.
To the NFL, the Arizona Cardinals and their top pick in April's NFL draft, Marvin Harrison Jr., recently agreed on a 4-year contract. Can you tell us, Bummer, Arizona's most recent 1,000-yard receiver? Was it Larry Fitzgerald, DeAndre Hopkins, or Christian Kirk?
Hopkins.
All right, question 4. This evening on 101 ESPN, the Celtics and Mavs will play in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Boston has not hoisted a banner since 2008 when Kevin Garnett and company defeated which Western Conference club in 6 games? Was it the Mavericks, the Lakers, or the Spurs?
It was the Lakers.
Okay, now I have a question. As Bradford is going to go get Randy, people are saying now you probably weren't named Bummer coming out of the womb. So I'm just curious how you got the nickname. I'm assuming it's a nickname Bummer.
Youngest of 9 children, and I bummed around with them when I was little. Or when my mom came home pregnant with her 9th kid, they said, "What a bummer."
So that's how you got the nickname Bummer.
I had a girl in high school call me and ask for Dan, and my mom told her she had the wrong number.
I love it. All right, Randy, say good morning to our buddy Bummer.
Bummer, good morning. How are you, sir?
Doing good, Randy.
Good. Good luck today.
I think I'm going to need it.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for playing.
Randy, what do you have in those bags today? Some more grapes, fuel-up options? What do you have?
Took care of the grapes. Yeah, they're all gone. And a little, obviously, Propel, which is a necessity when I'm doing the show.
Of course
today.
it is.
It propels me towards victory.
Okay, hopefully.
Are you ready?
As ready as I'm going to be.
So, you know, Bummer's out at Whitmore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So our buddy called in. So away we go.
Here we go. I love it.
He is fortified and ready to go. Question number 1, RK. Tonight at Busch Stadium, the Redbirds and Rockies kick off their first series of the campaign. When Colorado last reached the postseason back in 2018, who won a staff-high 17 games?
I'm going to guess Jorge De La Rosa. He did a lot of good things for them, so I will go with the lefty, Jorge De La Rosa. That'll be my guy.
We are just 1 week away from golf's third major of the year, the U.S. Open. How many times has Tiger Woods captured The U.S. Open Championship.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's got 5 Masters and 4 U.S. Opens. I'm going to go 4 U.S. Opens.
On to question 3.
Moving forward, the Arizona Cardinals and their top pick in April's draft, Marvin Harrison Jr., they recently agreed on a 4-year contract. Tell us, RK, Arizona's most recent 1,000-yard receiver.
I don't think Hollywood Brown pulled it off. It might be Larry Fitzgerald. They have not had tremendous offense of late. I don't think they've had a tight end. I don't think that Trey McBride got 1,000 last year. So I'll just I'll play the odds here and say that it was Larry Fitzgerald.
And this evening on 101 ESPN, Randy, you can listen to the Celts and Mavs clash in Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Boston has not hoisted a banner since 2008 when Kevin Garnett and company defeated which Western Conference team in 6 games?
Oh, man. I can't believe this. I should know this right off the top of my head, shouldn't I? It wasn't the Lakers that year. It was 2008. I got stuck in the parade. Remember the Cardinals were in Boston that weekend.
Yep.
And I got stuck in the parade, unbeknownst. Who did they beat? It wasn't the it wasn't the Sonics, because then Ray Allen would have been just give me the lifeline.
Mavericks, Lakers, Spurs.
The Spurs was the first one that came to mind. Celtics and Lakers. That would have been Kobe and Pau. I'm gonna go with the Spurs, although I think it might be the Lakers, but I'm pretty sure it's not the Mavericks, which is good.
All right, Bubber comes to town on a Thursday, June the 6th. Can he take down Randy? Connection from Whitmore. We had a tightly contested affair, but in the end, there can only be one. Ring that bell.
The winner and new champion of the fight, Average Joe Listener.
The fight is presented by Golf Discount of St. Louis, with the most experienced club fitters in town. Why shop anywhere else?
Bummer, fabulous job. You knocked off Randy today, this morning, by the score of 2-0, actually. Let's get the results. Let's get that information. Starting from the top, tonight at Busch, we know that the Cardinals and Rockies are kicking off their first series of the year. It's a 4-game set. Colorado last reached the playoffs back in 2018. Who was the staff leader with 17 victories? Jorge De La Rosa was definitely a choice, as was John Gray. However, the individual to lead the staff that year was none other than Kyle Freeland, currently on the injured list. It was Kyle Freeland's second tour of duty in the big leagues. He went 17-7, 2.85 ERA somehow in Colorado across 33 starts. A miss for both of you guys there. We're a week away from the U.S. Open, third major of the season. Tiger, how many times has Eldrick captured said title? You have to go back to 2000 at Pebble Beach, 02 Bethpage Black, 08 at Torrey Pines. So in all, Tiger has captured 3 U.S. Open titles. Moving on to football, the Cardinals and Marvin Harrison Jr. recently inked a 4-year rookie deal. Arizona's most recent 1,000-yard receiver, though, Larry Fitzgerald, his swan song was back during this season. It was actually DeAndre Hopkins a few years ago. He had one really tremendous year from Kyler Murray. 1,400 receiving yards, 115 catches, had 160 targets that year, and Bummer nailed that one. Finally, on the hardwood tonight, we've got the Celtics and the Mavericks. Game 1 of the NBA Finals, 6:30 pregame here on 101 ESPN. Boston's last title came in 2008. Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, and the crew defeated the Los Angeles Lakers as led by Kobe and Pau in 6 games. A 2-spot for Bummer. Nice job. I guess we'll see you again tomorrow.
Yeah, and Randy, you do still have that tee time next week.
Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate that, because I wouldn't have if I would have won. So
if you would have won, it might have been a little different.
All right, Bummer. Thank you very much. Bummer with us on 101 ESPN, and that is The Fight. Next up, we're 100 games into the season. After this weekend, during this weekend, the Cardinals will reach 100 games left in the season. We've got MLB storylines with 100 games left. Next on 101 ESPN.
Stanley Cup Final is on ESPN. Saturday, Panthers and Oilers Game 1. Pregame at 6:30, puck drop at 7. The NHL plays on 101 ESPN.
Hey, there's some great things happening in St. Louis, and if you're running a business, then you need to listen to this. NetSuite's Business Grows Here event is coming to St. Louis on Thursday, June 27th, and you can learn how Missouri is paving the way for new business growth. You can see how AI-fueled technology is helping us do more, faster, and you can be inspired by leaders who are building successful businesses here in St. Louis. Jamie Siminoff is the founder of Ring Video Doorbell, and he has decided to headquarter his next business right here in St. Louis. And he's going to be speaking on June 27th at the Union Station Hotel in downtown St. Louis. NetSuite's Business Grows Here is free to attend if you qualify, and all you need to do is apply now. Go to netsuite.com/Missouri. That's NETSUITE, netsuite.com/Missouri, and you can get involved and you can be there on June 27th for one of the biggest business seminars of the year. Business Grows Here on June 27th at the Union Station Hotel. Again, netsuite.com/Missouri.
Dear summer vacay, load up on fun in a new Toyota. 4Runner's an off-road icon. Tundra hauls it all with its tenacious twin-turbo engine. And Tacoma takes adventure straight to the top. Want to ride with sizzling hot style and efficiency? The all-new all-hybrid Camry is revving and ready. Soak up summer fun in a new Toyota today. Visit Toyota.com or your local Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places.
.101 ESPN Sports Center.
Cardinals finally homeward bound. Good morning, I'm Bradford Bruns, and this Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. After a marathon road trip, St. Louis finds itself back in town for tonight's series opener against Colorado. Yesterday produced a 4-2 win over Houston, which pushed the Redbirds to 29-31 through 60 games. Miles Michaelis went 6 innings. Ryan Helsley secured save number 20 at 6:45. Sonny Gray makes his 11th start last weekend. The veteran righty fanned 10 Phillies. Hardwood, Boston, and Dallas are gearing up for Game 1 NBA Finals. 101 ESPN's coverage immediately follows our 6 o'clock instant replay as native son Jason Tatum eyes that Larry O'Brien trophy.
Playoffs is like an emotional roller coaster, and trying to find a balance right in between the wins and the losses, trying to stay even keeled throughout the entire, however long you're playing, is important. The team that does that the best usually has a lot of success.
This Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
This is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One.
Time for some MLB storylines, as this weekend the Cardinals will get to 62 games and they'll only have 100 games left in the season. Dan, are you familiar with the names Tanner Bibby, Logan Allen, Tristan McKenzie, Ben Lively, and Carlos Carrasco?
Not well, but Cleveland.
Those are your Cleveland Guardians starting pitchers. That's a group that right now, as a group, has the 7th best earned run average in all of baseball. It's a group that we don't know well, but the Guardians just keep coming up with wins. They have the 3rd best record in all of baseball, 2nd best record in the American League, and they've always done it with pitching. As Greg Amsinger mentioned, they draft and develop pitching better than anybody. They've kept their most important guy. Their 3rd baseman, Jose Ramirez, is probably the American League most valuable player. But here's the other guys that they have in their lineup. The Naylor brothers, Bo and Josh, are their catcher and first baseman. Andres Jimenez is their second baseman. Brian Rocchio is their shortstop. We'll go with Rocchio because of Matthew. And then their outfield is Stephen Kwan, Tyler Freeman, and Will Brennan, with Estevan Florial as their DH. It's not the most star-laden lineup in baseball, but it's the lineup that happens to have the 3rd best record.
Not household names. They also have a plus 81 run differential, and I think now at this point in the season, you could start looking at that, and I think it's a storyline of that team. They're also 21-7 at home, so they win at home, and that's something to keep in mind. I'm going to go with Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell and the importance of having spring training. Blake Snell is on the IL currently. Jordan Montgomery exited to booze at Chase Field yesterday. Randy went 2 innings, 7 hits, 6 earned, walked 3, 1 strikeout, and his season ERA is 6.80. The importance of spring training, 2 of the biggest names that held out, and 2 of the biggest names that have been non-factors so far, a third through the season.
You have to have spring training, and I don't care how much you do at Scott Boris's camp, but if you aren't throwing to real hitters in spring training, you're not going to be prepared to start a major league season. Time has shown that again and again and again, and it's showing it this year with a guy who won a Cy Young last year, and Jordan Montgomery. I know a lot of us wanted the Cardinals to have Jordan Montgomery on their team, but you don't want him right now.
I wonder if some pitchers will back away from Scott Boras and just say, you can be my agent, but I got to be in a camp.
Yeah.
You give me my best deal out there, but before it's all said and done, I have to be in a camp. I don't know if a lot of guys would do that just because he's going to get you a ton of money, and do they really care? But I wonder if some guys would care and say, get me into camp, because it's clear that these 2 guys did not benefit from missing time in spring training.
And we saw that with the reliever that Boris had with Greg Holland a few years ago. The one guy who got lucky twice was Kyle Loesch, who signed with the Cardinals during spring training, and then when he went to the Brewers, he signed during spring training. Had good years with both of them, but he is the exception rather than the rule.
I could say that human nature would tell you, stick around, don't worry about it. You're going to get your deal. You feel good about your body. You're in shape. There's nothing like facing live hitting, and nothing like being between the lines of a major league game, even in spring training, and that just can't be duplicated on the side.
No. Dan, the other one that I have is that despite what we saw over the last 3 days, I think the Astros might be done. They have lost both Christian Javier, one of their starters, and Luis Garcia, along with Jose Urquidy, to Tommy John surgery. Javier and Urquidy are both going to undergo season-ending Tommy John surgery within the next couple of weeks. So their opening day of spring training rotation of Justin Verlander, Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, Lance McCullers, and Jose Urquidy is missing 3/5 of the guys.
It's huge.
Yeah, and McCullers is still rehabbing from flexor surgery. Garcia is already out with Tommy John. Now Javier is going to join him. Urquidy is going to join him. Well, Ronel Blanco has been pretty impressive so far. We don't know what he'll look like in September. But then they've got Hunter Brown. They've got Spencer Arrighetti, who we saw the other night. They don't have the big boys that they had when they were going to the World Series. And I think from the standpoint of winning the World Series, they might make a playoff run, but not with the group of starters that they have. Are they going to be a World Series champ?
I think, and it hits close to home, one of the storylines that I looked at was catchers' interference calls early on this season. And what we're seeing, last year there were 96 catchers' interference calls. That was a single season record. Randy, we're only a third of the way through the season. There's been 42 already this year, as the trend has been to try to steal strikes, but it cost the Cardinals Contreras. And I've talked to some people that believe he's going to be back sooner rather than later, which is good news if you're a Cardinal fan. We'll see if that plays out. But 42 already this season, and that is a major storyline with catchers this year.
And I know Rob Manfred can unilaterally implement rules. He needs to here. They need to, as Miles Michaelis suggested when Contreras got hurt, just put a line back there that prevents the catcher from moving up to try to steal those strikes.
How about common sense? I mean,
if you're a catcher.
That's what I mean. I mean, look at where the guy's set up. Back up appropriately. You didn't have this problem before when you're trying to steal strikes, and just look at the guy in the box and use common sense if you need to back up.
Nobody loves you like you love you. And I think the catchers need to worry about themselves.
Right. And their own health, their own well-being.
Bottom line, no doubt about it. Those are some storylines, and here are the Cardinals. And as we head into the weekend, the Cardinals have played 60 games. So after tonight and tomorrow, the Cardinals will have 100 games left in the season.
Hard to believe that it's to this point in the season. Can I throw one more storyline at you? And that's the Yankees' dominance in the 1-2 punch of Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. I've been watching them the last couple of weeks. These guys aren't missing the baseball. They have barreled now 84 baseballs. That matches the total entirety of the Nationals. And they've got great pitching. Luis Gil has a 1.84 ERA. Their starters have been dominant. And the other one that I look at is the Phillies' dominance, 27-9 at home. They have an 8-game lead. And as it pertains to the Cardinals in this upcoming homestand, Paul Skeens, most 100-mile-an-hour strikes. He's got 147. The next closest is Jorge Soriano at 33. You're going to see that guy at Busch Stadium next week. Could be fun to watch.
And by the way, in 2018, the Yankees traded outfielder Jake Cave to Minnesota for Luis Gil. And you mentioned the 1.84 earned run average. He has been their number 2 starter. With Cole out, they needed somebody to step up, and Luis Gil has been amazing for them. With the great earned run average and just pitching fantastic.
And their whole staff. I mean, their starters were giving them 4 to 5 innings every single night, consecutive run in which they set, I believe, an all-time record for starters in terms of giving you 4 innings. So, yeah, the Yankees' dominance, they spend money. Don't ever overlook that. But Brian Cashman has found a gem in Gil.
He really has. Next up here on 101 ESPN, we've got our rush hour reset. Stick around.
Your exclusive home of St. Louis Blues hockey. WXOS HD1 East St. Louis 101 ESPN.
Hey, a couple of months ago, I found myself needing a new vehicle because my vehicle got totaled. So what did I do? I do what I tell you to do. I went to autoloanpro.com, and they set me up with a perfect loan, the payment that I wanted at a rate that I wanted. That's because they work with over 50 different lenders to help all of us get the very best financing. And the cool thing about going to Auto Loan Pro was I was able to find a vehicle there too. If you go to autoloanpro.com, download their playbook as to how to go about buying a car, but then they have drop-down tabs. If you're looking for a new vehicle, they can help you out in that regard as well. I can tell you from firsthand experience, they're going to work really hard to make sure that you get the best deal possible. And if you can make a payment, they can get you into a vehicle. How important is that? If you've had any credit issues in the past, they can help you out, and they're going to work hard to make sure that you get the best deal. And again, make a payment, and you can get a loan from autoloanpro.com. If you're financing a car, there's only one thing to know. Choose the Auto Loan Pro at autoloanpro.com.
Live from the Car Shield studio, this is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. We're recapping the biggest sports stories of the day on the opening drive with a rush hour reset.
.906 in St. Louis and 2-1. Woof. 906, your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Danny Mack, Bradford Bruns in for Matthew Rocchio. I'm Randy Carricker. Yes, sir?
You should probably explain where woof came from.
That was a Jack Buck thing. When we would run the network, for the Cardinal Network, we would be sitting in a studio all by our lonesome. And
a lot of lonely nights for us.
Oh, a lot of them, yeah. And when Jack Buck would bring us back from a rain delay, he would give a time check to the entire network. So he would be looking at his watch, and he would say, it'll be 8 o'clock in 3, 2, 1... woof, so that everybody could synchronize their clocks. And so when I hit 9:06 exactly, 9:06 and 00 seconds, that means woof.
I used to do that all the time, listening to Jack. I always try to listen in like in cue, which means it's not going out over the air for those who don't know, and you can kind of hear some of the microphones and just listen to what they were talking about. There's some interesting conversations.
One night after a particularly devastating loss, he broke his stopwatch. Slammed it on the table.
He was a fan.
Yeah, he definitely was. Hey, one of my favorite people is Reagan Hanna. Over the years, I have bought a lot of Girl Scout cookies from young Reagan. I've known her since she was just a little baby, and she's turning 12 today. So happy birthday to Reagan. She's a quality young individual. Kelly and Eric are her parents, and they're great. So Reagan, happy birthday to you. you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Reagan. Happy birthday to you.
That's a lot of cookies you've had over the years.
It is. You know it.
Are you still buying Girl Scout cookies?
Whenever they're made available here in the building.
And your favorite is?
Oh, I'm the coconut ones, or are those tagalongs? No, what
those
are
are my favorite too.
Samoas.
The name has fluctuated a bit, I think, in recent years.
What are they? I think tagalongs might be peanut butter.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm not sure. I like the one that you just described, though. It's got the coconut and chocolate.
Delicious.
I'm all over that.
Yeah, so thank you, Reagan, for all of the good times over the years. Cardinals were winners yesterday. They play the Rockies tonight, and that game, obviously, will be seen on Bally Sports. And the Cardinals getting back at it after winning 1 of 3 in Philly, 1 of 3 in Houston. Now they need to come back home, take on Rockies' team, worst team by record in the National League, and the Cardinals need to handle their business.
The Cardinals have the 9th highest OPS in the last 30 days in Major League Baseball. May surprise you a little bit. The Rockies give up 5.5 runs per game, so you would say, at least on paper, this has got to favor the Cardinals. We talked about it. You got to take 3 or 4. You're at home against a team that's not very good. In my opinion, you take 3 or 4. If you're wondering about Dakota Hudson, he pitched yesterday, so he will not appear in this series. Going back to yesterday, Randy, it was such an interesting move by Oli Marmol. 62 pitches in 6 innings from Miles Mikolas, and then he's lifted for the big 3. Romero, Kittredge, Helsley, who now has 20 saves to lead Major League Baseball. I found it at the time kind of a shocking move, but it paid off for the Cardinals.
Yeah, it worked, and he knew what he had in, especially Romero, coming out after pitching, throwing 30-plus pitches 2 nights before. But it wound up being the right move. Romero, then Kittredge, then Helsley, and 62 pitches out of Mikolas. And we talked about this earlier, Dan. I would not be averse. Let me tell you, I would not complain if we come back here on Monday, and I'll be with BK on Monday morning. Doesn't matter what the outcome would be. If Miles Mikolas starts that game, having only Thursday, Friday, and Saturday off, if he comes back on 3 days rest after throwing 62 pitches, I think that'd be an interesting out-of-the-box move. That would not bother me, and I wouldn't, because I suggested it, it's my idea, I wouldn't second-guess it on Monday.
For me, it would be dependent on how much you had to go to your bullpen the 3 previous days. If your bullpen's rested, it's outside the box, you might think about doing that. If your bullpen isn't rested, I probably wouldn't do it.
And we don't know how much they trust Palante, but the last outing was not.
No.
He only gave you 3 innings.
He wasn't missing bats.
And another thing you could do, if you really, I don't know. I was thinking about piggybacking, but you can piggyback with Liberatore, too.
You could do that.
Depending on how you're pitching again.
So basically make it a bullpen start.
Yeah.
Even though you're using technically one of your 5 starters on 3 days rest and make it a bullpen start.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Mikolas is not getting enough credit right now. 5 quality starts in his last 7. So at 6 innings, 3 or fewer runs. Does that surprise you a little bit when I say that?
Yeah, because the perception is way different than what the reality is.
Yeah. You give a quality start this day and age, you got a chance to win games.
Yeah.
And even extending that further, his last 8 starts, 7 of the 8. He was blown out in 1 game, but 7 of the 8. One of those starts was 5 innings. He's given you a chance to win. And that's kind of what we talk about with this pitching staff. Give you 5, maybe 6. Turn it over to the bullpen, and you've got a chance to pack up some victories here if you're the Cardinals. It's just the way it lays out for them in 2024.
And, of course, back at Busch Stadium, there we go. So they're going to beat the Rockies tonight. Sonny Gray on the mound for the Redbirds.
13-12 for the Cardinals at home. Only a half game in front of Pittsburgh. Rockies only 8 wins on the road. And I mentioned this earlier, but 10 of the next 16 at home for St. Louis. So if you're going to win and get into postseason play, hang around 500, you have to be better at home. And they're just 1 game above 500.
And the NBA is dominating the sports news today. Number 1, the Celtics and Mavericks play game 1 of the NBA Finals tonight. And that's a 6:30 pregame here on 101 ESPN. The other big NBA news of the day is that according to Woj at ESPN, the Lakers are targeting Dan Hurley as their next head coach, ready to offer him a massive, according to Woj, multi-year contract to leave UConn, where he's won back-to-back championships, and join the Lakers.
I think the greater point here is the state of college athletics, where you have a lot of these head coaches in football want to become coordinators at the NFL level, or you're Jim Harbaugh coming off a national championship. And granted, there's some baggage there that if and when he would have come back, maybe there were some sanctions coming against Michigan, but he jumps for the NFL, and Danny Hurley jumps for the NBA. It looks like. Now, he's got a lot of reasons as to why they're going to make him potentially a $20 million a year head coach, so they're going to pay for it, but still, it does lend itself to wonder about the state of college athletics if you're a coach right now.
And let's just zero in on basketball. Okay, Coach K is older. He was at retirement age. Roy Williams retires. Jay Wright retires. Jay Wright is my age and retired. Danny Hurley looking to get out. So many legendary coaches. Self is still around. Pitino has come back. But it seems like the nature of the beast with the names that you mentioned from football and basketball, especially non-football basketball schools like UConn, seems like they are kind of fleeing for the exits.
And if you're a college coach, not only are you recruiting, but you're re-recruiting your own kids and then having to raise money for NIL. I mean, the landscape has completely changed. And I think some of these coaches are saying, the hell with it. I don't want to deal with this. I just want to be a coach. And if I get $20 million a year to do it, it makes sense.
Yep, and somebody else can determine who your players are going to be, and you don't have to recruit them.
Right.
And you don't have to go out and try to find money to pay them. That's another thing. Eli Drinkwitz, every single day, is trying to get money from people to pay players.
Yeah.
So he's playing both ends. He's got to pay the players, but then he's got to find money to pay them, too.
I think, too, going back to the Lakers, this is their stance as an organization to say, okay, LeBron, you've got a hand in this. We're going to listen to you, but when you're done, which could be in a year, 2 years, we have stability at the head coaching position, and it's not everything predicated on what you want. This is the organization ahead of the individual, no matter how great the individual is, but still taking a stance on what we are collectively as an organization moving forward.
Absolutely. That's Dan. I'm Randy, and coming up next year on 101 ESPN, Jeremy Rutherford's going to join us for a couple of segments, talk some Blues hockey as they start traversing the offseason and get ready for the next season. JR, our Blues insider, next on 101 ESPN.
Catch the Balloon Party with Tim McKernan and Action Jackson. Weekdays from 10 to 11 a.m. on 101 ESPN. The fastest hour of sports radio is driven by Munganast and Burkhardt Alton Toyota.
A cool thing is happening in St. Louis. The opportunity for youth with disabilities in our region to play baseball is being put forth. Other sports are also not available to youth or adults with disabilities. And right now, the Gateway Region YMCA has partnered with Cardinals Care and the Boniface Foundation on construction of a state-of-the-art adaptive sports complex that includes a Miracle League baseball field, an inclusive playground, a multipurpose field so kids and adults with disabilities can play sports. And working with the Cardinals, the Y is very proud to announce that the name of the field is Paul Goldschmidt Field. And as part of its work as a nonprofit, the Y provides comprehensive adaptive support services to more than 1,000 individuals every year. This new facility is going to be a game changer. It enables the Y to expand programming specifically for sports for individuals with disabilities. But the Y needs your help. You can become a donor. There are all kinds of great opportunities for you to be recognized with opportunities that start at $500. Just go to GWRYMCA.org. That's Gateway Region, GWRYMCA.org. Hey, if you're in the market for a new outdoor project, I want you to visit my friends at Chesterfield Fence and Deck. You can call them at 800-300-4054 or find them on the web at chesterfieldfence.com. They're A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, and everything by Chesterfield Fence and Deck is guaranteed by a 5-year labor warranty and comprehensive material warranties as well. They offer the best exclusive warranties in the entire industry. Chesterfield Fence and Deck has been around for 56 years, and you don't stick around for 56 years unless you're doing it right, and they do. They're a locally owned company, and they care about the people of St. Louis. They use their own professionally trained installation crews that are from here in St. Louis. They have their own trucks, their own tools, and they operate out of a beautiful warehouse in Chesterfield Valley. If you're in the market for a great outdoor project, whether it is a fence, deck, sunroom, screen room, pergola, get in touch with Chesterfield Fence and Deck at chesterfieldfence.com or call 800-300-4054 and mention me and get 20% off your next outdoor project with Chesterfield Fence and Deck, the sign you have the very best.
This is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One.
Let's start with this because Jeremy Rutherford has covered everything during the course of his career. He was the beat writer for the Fighting Illini. Does the Post-Dispatch even have a Fighting Illini beat writer anymore?
No, I think when Lee Enterprise bought the Post-Dispatch and a number of papers, they combined it. So I think Decatur was covering Illinois for the Post-Dispatch.
Okay, got it. Anyway, JR has covered football. He's covered hockey. He's covered baseball. He's covered golf. And Danny Mac, look, we're both wearing free shirts today.
I like it.
Here.
So what's yours?
Mine's PGA Championship too.
Oh, nice.
Both freebies from the 2018 PGA Championship.
Yeah,
gotta wear those freebies.
If former 101 producer Danny Betlock is listening, he's laughing because he watched me this day. I had a ticket to get a free shirt, and I looked everywhere. I climbed mountains. I ran downstairs. I crawled over rocks and coals to find out where they were giving these shirts away because they were so nice. And
it's a beautiful shirt.
He made fun of me. He said, "Boy, you went a long way to find that free shirt."
Here we are 6 years later. It was worth it.
I was going to say, it's a little old, isn't it? It's 5 or 6 years old, but still coming out of the closet.
Well, I'm not in every golf tournament like you where you can just grab a shirt every time you go get one.
Randy does more. Randy, you probably do more charity events than I do, golf-wise.
We're probably even, I would think.
Do you take a free shirt every time?
Oh, yeah. For every golf tournament that gives a shirt, yeah.
You're all over it?
Yeah, I've got way too many golf shirts. But I use them. I use them. All right, so next Wednesday is We Went Blues Day for the Blues. We're going to talk about that with Chris Zimmerman, actually, tomorrow here on 101 ESPN. But it's amazing how one, can we say not of his right mind guy has spawned a day in Brett Hull saying, "We went blues."
It was unbelievable. And unfortunately, I wasn't kind of watching the stage when all that went down because I was in the back interviewing a bunch of people. But then when you heard about it, you were like, oh, my gosh. And then I remember we started a podcast not long after that with Barrett Jackman, and we were trying to think of names, and we must have went over 100 names. And finally we said, we went blues. And so we called Brett because we wanted to get him as a guest. And he goes, hey, shouldn't I get some money for that? Or a patent on that?
So do you have a story coming out on the anniversary of this?
I don't have a story, but I'm going to do a trivia survey next week for fans, and hopefully I can get the answers right myself. But we're going to put one out for fans next week.
What comes to mind when you reflect?
Yeah, just a ton of things. Like, you know, growing up in St. Louis and being a blues fan, you know, I had posters on my wall of blues players. You don't know that one day as a journalist you're going to get a chance to cover the team. I had no idea that was going to happen. You know, one day they call you and say, hey, you're covering University of Illinois. Would you like to cover the Blues? Heck yeah, I would. So now all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where there's a lot of lean times, and now all of a sudden the build up to the Cup. And, you know, Dan, just everything that St. Louis got to experience with the Cup to be there outside the locker room, to be in the building. A couple things that come to mind. I think I've talked to you guys about this once or twice, but I remember walking up to Oscar Sundqvist, and I was the only media person there in Boston to stick a microphone in his face. The other media hadn't converged yet. And I said, so Carl Gunnarsson just scored. You guys won in overtime? He goes, yeah, he was in the pisser with Chief and told him, just give me one more chance. And I'm, in 20 years of sticking microphones in athletes' faces and asking them questions, I just looked at him and said, do what now? Do what? And he said, oh, yeah, they're in the pisser together. And I said, oh, my gosh. So obviously we had to go ask everybody that. And then the one, again, probably mentioned before, but that just sticks out in my mind is, growing up and even writing a book about the Blues and knowing that Scotty Bowman was such a big part of Blues history, to prearrange a phone call with him and say, Mr. Bowman, if the Blues win the Stanley Cup, can I give you a call the second the game's over? And there I was in the Boston press box. And it's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and the Blues are throwing their gloves and they're jumping on Jordan Binnington, and I'm dialing up Mr. Bowman, and I said, hey, the Blues in St. Louis won a Stanley Cup. What do you think? And all of a sudden you hear his famous voice, and he starts talking for 2 minutes about what it means for the city.
Only two?
Yeah, those are. It was. You're right. You're right about that. But to get his response right away and pump that into the article was just a treat. So many things that you remember.
It was. It's amazing that it's been 5 years, isn't it? But to me, the best thing about it was, and I know all the players deserved it, and the story is amazing, but all the stories that we heard afterwards of fans, right? And you told the story about somebody having the urn at the parade, right? It was such an emotional experience for so many people here.
It was, and when we talk about 5 years, I know people will say, they're celebrating third year, fourth year, fifth year. I think this is something because it was their first Stanley Cup that we'll hear references and stories every year probably for the next 15, 20, 30 years. That's a cool part to me about when I go places, whether you're at a barbecue or you're, a 4th of July picnic or something like that, everybody's got a personal story to tell, and including the ones where maybe somebody's passed away since then in the last 5 years, and they'll tell you, at least my dad or at least my grandpa or at least my grandma got to experience that before they passed away. But everybody's got a personal story to tell.
How about Bobby Plager during that run? You were around him a bunch.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And Danny, one that sticks out with Mr. Plager was, I think I was in Winnipeg, so it was round one. And I'm in Winnipeg, and I realize it's, spring/summer, but I forget my socks. I got up there. You know how it is on the road. You open up your bag, and all of a sudden, where are the socks at? This is unbelievable. And so I didn't go out and buy any. I think I had to get to the rink. And so I went a couple games, and they won both games, and I got no socks on. Well, listen, even though I grew up a Blues fan, as a reporter, you cut the cord. I'm not rooting for the Blues.
Well,
so
you still have those posters.
Yeah, you still got the posters hanging in your room, right? But I had a couple people come up to me and say, you can't put socks on. And when you get back, no, when I get back to St. Louis, I got socks in my drawer. I'm putting those on when I go to the rink. No, you can't. So anyway, I'm sitting there in the St. Louis press box. Now we've come home from Winnipeg. They've won a couple games with the no socks. And I'm sitting there in the Blues press box, and I just hear Mr. Plager's gruff voice behind me, you don't have those damn socks on, do you? Even he was getting caught up in the superstitious of it.
That's great. By the way, I heard earlier this week that Petro returned home over the weekend. So it's always good to have Alex Pietrangelo back in St. Louis.
Yeah, it really is. And, he was a guy that I admired and covered. He was a very insightful guy that returns a text a lot of times. And I think that he was a big reason why the Blues won the Stanley Cup, even though a massive team effort. He was a guy that helped bring it here. And so I hope that people continue to pay him his due. I know it was a difficult decision for everybody involved when he went on to Vegas, but a big part of this. And one story with Petro that I'll never forget is it was on 101 ESPN. I was co-hosting a show with somebody, can't remember. I think we were over at Scott Air Force Base, and we had Joe Pietrangelo, his dad, on, and it was the day that the Sports Illustrated cover came out with his son hoisting the cup. And while we had him on the air, I think is when it hit the internet, and I said, Mr. Pietrangelo, I'm looking at a cover of Sports Illustrated right now with your son lifting the cup, and he just melted on the air. And
oh, wow.
Unbelievable.
How about the Maroon family? You were around them a bunch, too.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. I mean, Game 7, double overtime, goal against Dallas.
But you ran into his mom, right?
Ran into his mom, and it was great interview. And again, you talk about you never think you're going to hear Oscar Sundquist talk about Chief and Gunnarsson at the Pisser, but I'll never forget talking to Maroon's mom, Patty Maroon, great lady, great family, after that double OT goal. And she said, Jeremy, I'm sitting in my seat and I got a prayer card in my bra and I pulled it out and I held it in the air right before he scored the goal. And then Pat goes on to beat Dallas and send the Blues on to the next round. So great family.
JR is with us on 101 ESPN, our Blues Insider. Coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about this offseason, and as the Blues head towards 24-25. Man, it's going to be 2025 next year. We can talk about that next time, 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN has your chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to next Tuesday night's Budweiser Bash for Cardinals versus Pirates. It's the next Budweiser Bash game of the 2024 season and features a limited edition bobblehead giveaway featuring Cardinals Hall of Famer Jason Isringhausen. Keep listening to 101 for your chance to win a 4-pack of free tickets. And get all the details for this season's series of Budweiser Bash Cards games now at cardinals.com/promotions.
Hey, if you want to extend your education, if higher education is in your future, you need to know about Lindenwood University, where you can advance your career with flexible online learning. Choose from over 35 industry-relevant degree programs, including options for military students. You can learn more online at lindenwood.edu. I went to the traditional route because we didn't have online learning when I went to Lindenwood University. But it's an affordable industry-relevant program that's perfect for working adults. They have the ability for you to work with them, so you can apply credit from prior learning and experience to what you're doing at Lindenwood, and they have the top-ranked online MBA in Missouri, according to Fortune Education 2324. You can learn more at online.lindenwood.edu and take advantage of what they have to offer. The price is great, the quality is incredible, and you'll absolutely love it. And oh, by the way, it's Lindenwood today here in the opening drive. We had Greg Amsinger on, Bradford Bruns, Danny Mack, Randy Carricker, all Lindenwood grads and all very proud to be so. So you can learn more by going online and check out online.lindenwood.edu.
Drive, the Balloon Party, BK and Ferrario, to the Fast Lane and more. If you missed anything on 101 ESPN today, get caught up with all the shows and 101 podcasts at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app.
Driven by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Live from the Car Shield studio, this is the Opening Drive on 101 ESPN.
Danny Mac, Randy Carricker, Jeremy Rutherford, the Opening Drive on 101 ESPN. All right, JR, what's the big splash move that the Blues are going to make this offseason?
Well, I know which one people want them to make. It starts with Brady and ends in a Kachuk. But, no, when I sat down with Tom Stillman a couple weeks ago, I just didn't get the impression that there were any big splashy moves. Like he said, I just don't know that you're going to see anything in free agency. And I think that kind of sticks with what Doug Armstrong's saying, is that they want to build this thing the right way. And now may not be the time to do that. I've continued to say, Randy, that, if they move out a contract that we've been talking about the past couple of years, whether it's a Torrey Krug or whomever, that would be moving this thing forward. Not specifically saying Krug, but if they can kind of just reshape the team a little bit, change some faces, get to that next step where you're bringing in the Dvorskys and those guys, I think that would be a big step. Now, I will say this, though, that Tom did say, but it will be exciting. Let's just say it already is, and that was kind of a tease to what could be.
So Justin Falk right now, I think we could all agree, would be a third-pairing right-handed guy, right? Because with Kessel as your number 2 and Parayko as your number 1, is the intrigue in the league for Justin Falk similar to what it was when the Blues got him?
It's tough because even when the Blues got him, I don't know that there were a ton of teams that were after him, especially because he wanted the long-term contract at 6.5 AAV, and he ended up getting that from the Blues. Tough first year, and then I think second, third year were great for the Blues. The one thing with Justin Falk that I'll say about him is he had the high ankle that he had in, December, I think, the injury against Colorado. And when I watched Justin Falk this year, Randy, I just felt there had to be more to it. A player cannot decline that fast. Like we saw him just get walked, and we know how high ankle sprains are. They can linger. So, I'm not trying to make excuses for him. I would think, I know what you're saying, but I would think that Drew Bannister would come in thinking he's a second pair guy, Kessel third pair guy, and then maybe they switch depending on performance. But is there interest around the league? I would think that there would be from a personal and professional standpoint with who Justin Falk is. But he's still got, 3-4 years left on that deal. So I don't see teams lining up to take on players who are questionable with how they're playing, / they've got a lot of term left.
314, this leads into that. JR, I know Falk and Krug had some injury issues this past year. If they're both still here at the end of the summer and are healthy, can they bounce back next year? In particular, offensively, can they be better, or is this their downturn?
Well, I think Krug is who he is. I think that he actually played better this year than he did the previous year. So, I would think that the Blues would still be efforting, trying to move him, because we knew in the past that they tried to do that, right? With Justin Falk, I think he can be better this upcoming year if what we're saying about the high ankle sprain kind of holding them back was a major issue. You talk about these guys bouncing back. It seems like it's been 2 or 3 years that we keep talking about guys bouncing back. And then Doug Armstrong did say, Dan, last year, he said, listen, if what happens defensively this year replicates what we saw last year, then we're going to have to make some changes. I think we can all agree, guys, that the defense was better, right? The defense overall. Definitely. But that said, they still need to make some changes. And I think we know who we're talking about with that conversation.
Who?
I think that you know that Leddy had a good season. You know that Parayko had an incredible season. Justin Falk, we're going to wait to see what, is he better from the high ankle? I think Krug is probably the guy that you have to move because, you got a Kessel, you got Prinovic. I think he's still in the mix, even though he's probably outside looking in. And I think you're going to have to make a change with Torrey Krug.
And obviously, it's going to have to be something he agrees with because they tried it last year and it didn't work.
Right. And so many of those guys with those no trade clauses.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk a little bit about what they could do in terms of if they move somebody. What do they need? And we're going to get to your article coming up. But what do you think if they're going to move somebody that they would be trying to get back?
Well, and so to me, It's a great question, fair question. I think it's something where they need to look at not necessarily what do they need this offseason to help them next year, but what do they need in the next couple of years that's going to set them up well. That's why when I wrote this Mitch Marner story a couple days ago, I said at the end of the story, I don't think he's a guy that makes sense right now because you're 2 or 3 years away from competing. He's 10.3 right now. He's got one more year left on that deal. Then he might get a raise on that. Are you really paying $20-30 million for the next couple of years for a Mitch Marner? Yeah, he'll help you, but are you ready to take that next step? And so to me, I think they need to bring in a top 4 defenseman. You know, if it's moving Krug out and bringing somebody in, maybe it's bringing Kessel into that bunch. And then also, I think they need a number 2 center. We've talked about that. Could it be Dvorsky? I think that's going to be, you know, a tough ask of him, being an 18, 19-year-old. But if they're moving in that direction and they're going to give these young guys some ice time, you know, I think it could be Dvorsky. But if it's not, they're going to have to go out and find somebody to man that second-line center spot.
Have you spoken to Drew Bannister much?
Yeah, a couple, probably about a week ago. Great conversation, guys. Listen to this. I said, so what's it like for an NHL coach when you go back home and you know you're there for, just 8 weeks maybe? He goes, you should see the size of this honey-do list. I said, well, give me something on that list. And he said, kind of hard for him to describe, but he said, we got this gate in the backyard on one of the fences. I got to fix that, and I got to fix this. But, how can he say no, right? Like some of us, we can say, hey, honey, I'll get to that, some other, maybe next week, month or so, I'll tackle that project. But he's going to say, okay, jump on that. But, yeah, honey-do list and going to a lot of his kids' games. He's got 3 daughters that play hockey. One of them's really good. And then we talked about the team, Dan, and I think Chris Kerber passed along to you guys some of the things Bannister told him. But to me, he said pretty much same thing, is that we got to be more aggressive. All facets of the game, be more predictable, be there for each other. But he said watching these Stanley Cup finals, obviously they got some great players on these finals teams. But he said, I think we got some guys that if we can play more aggressive, we can be a better team.
You've got a piece coming out. Last year you did bold predictions, and you had a guy that made an incredible bold prediction, and you've done that again this year from the beginning of the season to the end of the season.
Yeah, and this past year usually we just do one preseason bold prediction, but this year we did 2. So I did 10, and then the readers did 10. And so what I did is I went back to both of those lists to see who had more right and see who can win it. So it's called Rutherford versus the Readers, and that'll be out in a couple days at the Athletic. And holy smokes, there were some good ones. One guy in particular, one of the readers, said that I think the Blues will finish with 90-plus points. They'll be in it to the end, and they'll just miss the playoffs.
Oh, man.
That
summed it up.
Unbelievable. Another guy said, I think Joel Hofer will play 30 games. He played exactly 30 games. Just amazing. So mine weren't very good. Let's not talk about that. So I don't want to tease it or give it away here, but I think maybe the readers come out on top. But I did say Jordan Binnington, who had an .884 save percentage last year, would have a .915 this year, and he came up .913. Does that count as a win?
That's pretty good.
That's a win, yeah.
What do you think? Kachuk, McDavid, Stanley Cup Finals. Where are you going with this?
Yeah, how about McDavid and the Oilers? I think surprised some people, beating Dallas to get to the finals. I like the Florida Panthers. I've been sticking with them probably since the middle of the season. I just think that they've got a group that knows what to expect. They went through it last year. They got a goaltender who's playing great, and they've got a cast of guys, Dan. So you look back at that 2019 Blues team. Tarasenko, Perron, Schenn, Schwartz. Well, the Florida Panthers have that with Barkov, Kachuk, Verhaeghe, all those guys. So I think that they're going to win against the Edmonton Oilers, but I'll let it go 6 or 7 games. I think that Oilers can give them a little bit.
Can you remember, we were talking about this, and Randy and I were trying to think of historical combinations of kids that went to the same high school, play different sports, and are playing in the NBA and NHL finals. And not only are they just, they're not complimentary players. We're talking about MVP type players. Can you recall anything like this?
No, faces of the game. I mean, this is what they're doing with Tatum. And I see Bradford's got the jersey on over here.
No doubt.
Yeah. And then just knowing what the Kachucks have done, not only here in St. Louis, but in the league, both of them, Matthew and Brady, it's unbelievable. So I know Randy and I traded text messages a couple days ago about a story at The Athletic. Is there one to be had there? And we did one last year. Peter Baugh, who's from St. Louis, works at The Athletic, wrote the story. And the story has that video of a young Tkachuk and a young Tatum. What is it, a gym class or something? And, just their young, fresh faces. And to think that those two guys would go on to the NHL and NBA and do what they're doing, it'd be unbelievable for these two guys to come away with titles.
Stafford and Kershaw, maybe that would be two that come to mind. Down in Texas, there's a school down there that produced a lot of pro athletes. That's one that comes to mind.
Yeah. And you look at the size of Texas. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. You're right, those two names there. But to think that it could happen in a city the size of St. Louis. And as you mentioned, these guys aren't complimentary players. These are stars.
Pretty awesome. Yep. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks, guys.
Good to see you. And have a great weekend. You guys are headed to the Ozarks, right?
Yeah, we're headed down to Ballparks National. Jeff Vernetti, Bob Ramsey, their place, to play some baseball games. And guys, past couple days, all I heard about was my little 11-year-old say, "Hey, the whole team's bleaching their hair. Can I bleach my hair?" And so I got my little son over here, Eli, with me in the studio with fresh bleached hair. So
nice.
Is that a dad foul, or did I do the right thing?
You
here,
did
Randy?
the right thing.
Oh, yeah, I'll ask Uncle Randy.
Oh, yeah.
Would you allow your son to?
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to. It's team bonding.
There you go.
Now, it doesn't work all the time, as the 2000 Blues could attest, but still, having blonde hair is team bonding.
And one last thing, guys. If the Blues do anything this weekend, like I said, I'll be down at the Lake of the Ozarks. However, if the Blues do anything, I'm locked out of Twitter, so don't go to the Twitter account and look for the
You're locked out right now?
Yeah.
Are you really?
Yeah, I kind of got hacked yesterday. So.
Oh,
man, that's not good for a beat writer.
Yeah, and luckily it happens in the dead of the off
right.
season.
Does Robert Thomas work with McDavid or is it McKinnon that he works with during the off season?
So I'm writing a story about Robert Thomas, and he grew up and did a lot of skating with McDavid. So those guys.
So I wonder who he's rooting for.
Yeah.
McDavid or Tkachuk?
Right. That's a good point. I'll have to text him and ask him.
Yeah, find out.
But I won't be able to tweet it out for a few days.
Okay. That's true. Have a great weekend, sir. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
That's our Blues Insider from The Athletic, Jeremy Rutherford on 101 ESPN. Coming up, we're going to head down the stretch with, we got to come up with a name for the segment since Matthew's gone.
Burnin' with Bradford.
Burnin' with Bradford. There we go. And we've got your chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to next Tuesday's Cardinals-Budweiser Bash game. That's next on 101 ESPN.
We're celebrating the 5th anniversary of the Blues' first Stanley Cup victory on Wednesday, June 12th for We Went Blues Day. Relive Game 7 in its entirety as we rebroadcast the call with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale.
The wait is over, and the St. Louis Blues are the Stanley Cup champions for the first time in franchise history.
It's We Went Blues Day on Wednesday, June 12th on 101 ESPN.
Had a chance to stop by and see the great doctors and nurses at Mentality yesterday. Mentality is a great local clinic that can restore the energy level that we as guys had when we were younger, because as we pass our 30th birthday, our testosterone level drops. And as our testosterone level drops, well, we deal with low energy and low motivation and fatigue and sometimes moodiness or decreased mental acuity. It doesn't have to be that way, though, because Mentality in Chesterfield and South County has an FDA-approved testosterone treatment that you go in and get every week, and it'll bring you back, and you won't be as fatigued. You'll have more energy. You'll be more motivated. You'll be sharper mentally. Makes all the difference in the world. When you go to lowtusa.com, you're going to find out what Mentality does. They've got a complete panel of your blood work that they take. They get your testosterone level back to the higher level of normal that you enjoyed when you were a youngster. You'll love working with Mentality, and you'll love what it does for you. Go to lowtusa.com. They're going to work with your insurance company to provide the best possible out-of-pocket expense experience for you. You'll love working with them. You'll love dealing with Mentality at lowtusa.com.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
Rocky Road continues for Colorado. I'm Bradford Bruns with your Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Last place Colorado visits Busch Stadium tonight. It's the opener of a 4-game set versus St. Louis, which held off Houston on Wednesday 4-2. Miles Michaelis was removed after 62 pitches, but he made those 6 innings count. 0 walks, only 5 hits allowed. Jojo Romero flawless in relief, and Ryan Helsley snagged save number 20. The Rockies, meanwhile, are limping with that 21-40 mark. They send Cal Quantrill against Sonny Gray here. Hoops, Boston and Dallas have NBA Finals honors approximately 9 hours from now on 101 ESPN. The Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
This is the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Brought to you by Sumner One.
I want to rock. End roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
Dan, we've got a chance to win Bud Bash tickets for next week.
My mouth is zipped.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not allowed.
You're not giving the answer?
I'm not going to give the answer. I get in too much trouble when I do that. And I don't mean to do that. I'm just...
You're enthusiastic.
I'm so enthusiastic over trying to give the answer. I apologize, Randy, for this week.
No, it's been
and
awesome.
others.
It's been great. Hey, you can get a 4-pack of tickets to next Tuesday night's Budweiser Bash game for the Cardinals and Pirates, and it features a limited edition Jason Isringhausen bobblehead. You can get all the details on the season series of Budweiser Bash Cardinals games now at cardinals.com/promotions, cardinals.com/promotions. But you can win the 4-pack right now by texting in and answering our question, 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO. Well done, gentlemen. And you can
all
win the
of us.
Well,
gentleman,
you did pretty good, man. That's pretty good. Cards and Pirates next Tuesday night at Busch Stadium. Okay, 4 tickets, and here is today's question. Izzy joined us earlier, and texter number 41. We'll do texter number 41 can answer this question correctly. If you do, you'll get the tickets. As Jason joined us, he told us what team he thought he was going to in free agency before he got a call from Cardinal Chairman Bill DeWitt. What team did Izzy think he was going to sign with? If you can answer that question correctly, you can get the 4-pack of tickets to next Tuesday night's Budweiser Bash game for the Cardinals and the Pirates.
Deep in the... No, I can't.
Oh, no.
I can't do that.
I can't do that. No,
all right.
No.
Gentlemen, I would like to bring this one full circle by getting back to baseball, although not a specific subject that we were able to cover earlier in the show. Yesterday, the Cardinals skipper, though, Ali Marmol, did indeed confirm that Keenan Middleton, the right-handed reliever who appeared in a handful of spring training contests for the Redbirds, but not in a regular season affair, he is officially done for the year. Next week, he's going to undergo flexor repair surgery. And before yesterday's contest, the series finale against Houston on Valley Sports Midwest, Michael Gersh, the GM, actually addressed this news.
Obviously, it's disappointing to not have him actually pitch in a game for us this year. But it's an opportunity for guys like Leahy and Roycroft, who both pitched well yesterday, for a guy like Ludis, who's been up and down. And then we've got the guys who are on the IL, who are all making progress coming back, and Gallegos and Riley O'Brien and Robertson. So we think we have options. We just got to get healthy and give guys step into the opportunity.
Now, speaking of Leahy, I think that he has exceeded a lot of fans' expectations thus far. Granted, small sample size. You wonder about where exactly Gio Gallegos is as far as his rehab progress is concerned. Ryan Fernandez, he has ascended. You're bringing Chris Roycroft into the mix. But for all intents and purposes, we received this inevitable news. The Cardinals set from the left side at the moment, but really this does call into question next few weeks, next couple of months, exactly in which direction this team is going to go from the right side of the pen.
Someone needs a chance, and then take the ball and run with it. And Michael Gersh basically alluded to that at the back end of his comments, but to me, because of the options that are available or not available for certain guys like a Middleton, others have to step up. It's really that simple, and catch lightning in a bottle with some of these. Maybe it's Leahy, who I like his stuff, but you have to have someone step up and bridge the gap somehow, probably two, to get you to Romero, Kittredge, and Helsley.
The guy I really liked in spring training was Riley O'Brien. He's got good stuff, and if he can come back healthy, that would be a difference maker. I think, like you do, Dan, that the Cardinals are going to have to make a move for a relief pitcher, though. You can't count on Riley O'Brien, who's never done it at the major league level, let alone in a pennant race. Neither has Robertson. I don't know what Gallegos is right now. I wish I knew. If the Cardinals thought that they could get a healthy Gallegos to be what he was a couple of years ago, then you've got something. But the fact of the matter is, it's been a long time since Gallegos has been a consistently good relief pitcher at the major league level.
I got to see his velocity. And if his velocity is down, he is not going to have success. He can't live around 90, 91, 92.
No.
He just can't. And if it's not up, then he's going to get hit around.
And you guys, I think you were kicking it around with BK yesterday in the office about a guy like Graceffo, who's got strikeout stuff. He's got swing and miss stuff. It might not be a bad idea to bring him up and put him in the pen and let him marinate at the major league level down there, like Adam Wainwright did, like so many other Cardinals have over the years, and let him just get used to the major league level and then try him as a starter next year.
Yeah, what if you went out and got from some of these lesser teams, and there are a lot of teams right now in Major League Baseball that think they're in it because it seems like everybody's hovering around 500, so your options are probably limited. But going out or on the scrap heap, finding a guy to fill the fifth starter spot and then moving Steven Matz to the bullpen. I think Steven Matz can be a weapon coming out of the bullpen. Now, will he get that opportunity? Probably not, because when his spot is up in the fifth time through the order, they probably lean towards that. But that is something to keep in mind, too. What if you move Steven Matz to the pen? And we talk about so much of starters and the importance and the role that they play, and all that is true, but starters don't go deep. So you got to strengthen your bullpen one way or another.
And the Cardinals need to, they're in an interesting position because they already have a fifth starter. They need a front of the rotation guy. So do you save any chips you have so that you can go out and get the closest approximation? Maybe it's Paul Blackburn. I don't know. Maybe it's Luzardo. I have no idea who that would be. But the Cardinals need more quality. In addition to having a number 5 starter that can be a back of the rotation guy, they need somebody up front. They need somebody to join Sonny Gray at the top of this rotation.
I like the idea of giving a shot to a young guy. I do, and bringing him up and say, go ahead and be max effort. Don't worry about trying to extend into games and hold back. Use your best stuff. Get me 3 outs. I think that's on the table. It has to be at this point.
Unfortunately, you had identified that young guy who really could have climbed the ranks, I believe, this spring into the summer. But Riley O'Brien is still really in question as far as coming along. And I don't know if you can expect necessarily contributions from him in 2024. Next season, though, all bets are off.
Yeah, I don't think you can reasonably, any of the injured guys, once a pitcher's hurt, it's really hard to expect him to come back and be what you thought he was going to be before he got hurt.
The O'Brien stuff played, too. I mean, that was major league stuff, and it's just a matter if he could throw strikes. There are some options. Will they give those options out to some of these players? Time will tell, but they need some help. They definitely need some help.
And Graceffo, by the way, 55 strikeouts and 59 innings as a starter down there. Kloffenstein only went 3 innings last night, but Kloffenstein is a guy, 55 Ks and 66 innings. McGreevy isn't really a huge strikeout guy. He's only got 46 and 63 in the third. And then you're getting down to the guys who are, well, here's Zach Thompson, 33 strikeouts and 28 and 2/3. The problem is he's got walks. He's got 24 strikeouts and 28 innings.
What is Graceffo in front of you? I hope it is, but I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but walks.
He has 26 walks in 59 innings. 55 strikeouts, 26 walks in 59 innings.
I also think from an organizational standpoint, too, sometimes these guys, we talked about it earlier, you're creatures of habit. Can you move starters to the pen? Now, it's happened a lot in Major League Baseball. We always point to Adam Wainwright being one of those guys that did it. But sometimes that necessarily isn't the way you want to go because it just doesn't work. So time will tell.
I talked to Todd Worrell last week at Whitey's funeral, and Todd Worrell talked about how Whitey changed his life because the Cardinals recognized that he just couldn't go a bunch of innings. And the best thing for him with his stuff was to move him into the bullpen, and Whitey Herzog did. He brings him up literally from a starter into a closer's role in 1985 down the stretch, and he wound up being great. But it is a special mentality. Jason Isringhausen did it, right? During the season, they moved him from the starting rotation into the bullpen. So maybe the Cardinals have people in town that can help a guy like that if they decide to make a move like that with a guy like Graceffo.
Are you leaning towards Jason Isringhausen maybe being that guy, Randy? Are you kind of saying that he could be?
I would take Izzy on the mound with his, as Tony would say, he's got the stomach for it. So, yeah, I would do that in a second.
And he could help a lot of these young kids, too, make that transition if need be.
Yeah. A great job today by our producer, audio, video engineer, and just a fantastic aisle around. The great Bradford Bruns. Thank you, sir.
Much appreciated. Shall we do it again tomorrow?
We
Yes,
shall.
sir. Great job.
Dan, you were awesome, brother.
You too.
Yeah. Hey, we thank you for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of the show. We've got a balloon party coming up next. Oh, by the way, Joe Vitale is going to join us tomorrow at 8:15. He's ready to rock and roll. Chris Zimmerman, Blues president, is also going to join us, and we'll have a fun show for you. But for all of us, until tomorrow morning at 7, have a wonderful Friday Eve, St. Louis.
That's right.
Attention 101 listeners.
You can join Kyle Gibson, Tommy Edmond, Paul Goldschmidt, Ryan Helsley, Nolan Arenado, Stephen Matz, and Miles Michaelis
In supporting some amazing causes during Big League Impact's All-Win campaign.
Consider making a donation in exchange for fun prizes and giveaways from Big League Impact. See the full list of foundations and programs being supported by this year's campaign and find all the details on how you can help support this year's All-Win Drive.
With Big League Impact, now at 101ESPN.com.